The Switch era has pretty much come to a close. With the release of the Switch 2, we now have a bigger and better console with far superior capabilities. And while Nintendo is still supporting the system with games here and there, the focus now is without a doubt on the Nintendo Switch 2. And with this new era, it's had me looking back on the Switch 1 and its incredible library of games. And in this video, I want to take a look back at those amazing games and take a deep dive into what makes them so special. So, without further ado, my name is Mariomikester, and this is a fun look back at the Nintendo Switch. Released worldwide on October 27, 2017, Super Mario Odyssey is the sixth mainline 3D Mario game. Development for this game began all the way back in late 2013, shortly after the release of Super Mario 3D World. One of, if not the biggest focus the team had during the development of this game, was to appeal to Mario's core audience, rather than appealing to the wider, more casual audience they had been appealing to since Super Mario Galaxy's release back in 2007. To appeal to Mario's core audience, the game was designed around returning to the open-ended sandbox level design of Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine, instead of the much more linear design seen in all the other 3D Marios at the time. And in order to best captivate this core audience and make the gameplay feel as much like a return to the roots of 3D Mario as possible, many prominent developers and staff who worked on 64 and Sunshine were brought on board to work on Odyssey. But the team didn't want to entirely rely on the roots of 3D Mario. They also wanted to introduce tons of new mechanics and ideas that would keep the gameplay feeling fresh. One of the many new mechanics they messed around with in the early stages of the game's development was the capture mechanic. And after working on and refining it for a few days, they realized just how much potential it had, and eventually decided to focus the entire game around it. And as the game wrapped up its decently long development period of around 4 years, Super Mario Odyssey was properly revealed to the public, title and all, on January 13th, 2017. Super Mario Odyssey opens up with a classic confrontation between Mario and Bowser aboard Bowser's airship, where Mario seems to have caught Bowser before he was able to escape whilst trying to kidnap Peach, and the two are duking it out. However, unlike most confrontations between the two, Bowser actually wins here by catching Mario off guard with his boomerang hat and sends him flying off into the air, with only his hat remaining on the ship before it's promptly disposed of by Bowser and shredded to pieces. This opening does an amazing job at setting up the fact that Bowser's going to be an actual threat this time around, unlike whatever he had going on in 3D World. I love that when he's speaking, although a lot of it is just growling gibberish, you can actually make out when he names both Mario and Peach. After the game's opening cutscene though, rather than Mario waking and starting off in a happy and upbeat grassy plain like we've seen over and over in the Mario series, he instead wakes up in this gloomy, monochromatic place known as Bonneton, where he's greeted by Cappy, your companion and partner for the game. Bonneton is a great area to start the game in. Not only is its gloomy and dark atmosphere such a well-needed change of pace from what we're used to in opening levels from Mario games, the dark and desolate nature of the kingdom is actually intended to reflect the feelings of Mario and the player as they begin their adventure. I mean, Mario is just defeated and has no idea where he is, so it makes sense for the emotion conveyed by this kingdom to be sadness, with the fog surrounding Bonneton representing his confusion. And after coming to grips with the basics of the controls and teaming up with Cappy, here in Bonneton, you're also introduced to the capture mechanic, with the game having you capture a frog in order to effortlessly scale the tower. I think a frog being the first capture of this game is honestly a pretty smart move. Not only is it an incredibly simple, but incredibly useful capture, just requiring you to jump to use its ability, it also showcases that you can capture almost anything in this game, not just average Mario enemies. This game is amazing. The climax of this tutorial kingdom is your introduction to the Broodals, goons who Bowser has hired to plan his wedding and take care of Mario. And although your fight with the first Broodal here, Topper, is relatively simple, I really do appreciate Nintendo designing completely new side villains here instead of reusing Boom Boom or Bowser Jr. It's just one of the many things that makes Odyssey feel distinct. And I mean, speaking of Odyssey's distinctiveness, I can't forget about its incredible assortment of kingdoms. Super Mario Odyssey is meant to be an adventure. It's a globetrotting journey across the world, hence the title of Odyssey, so its kingdoms should represent that, and each one should be diverse and different from each other in order to truly make it feel like you're traveling the world. And the game absolutely delivers on this with its kingdoms. While at first, a lot of the locations in the game may seem like formulaic rehashes of basic Mario level themes, like Cascade and Sand Kingdom seeming to be just your average grass and desert levels, the kingdoms that stick to these formulaic themes all have something unique about them that set them apart from locations that have used these themes before. Cascade Kingdom has a prehistoric theme, even featuring a literal T-Rex and the fossil of a giant Triceratops. The Lake Kingdom has this Atlantis-inspired theme, with its Greek architecture and underwater city. And the Seaside Kingdom is a French-inspired beach resort, complete with a volleyball minigame. And the kingdoms that aren't based off classic Mario themes and are in fact brand new, well, those kingdoms are just amazing. Of course you have the big one, the one Nintendo promoted tirelessly up until this game's launch, that they even created a live-action music video for, the Metro Kingdom, which I'll talk a lot more about later. But you also have Bowser's Kingdom, a beautiful traditional Japanese-inspired take on the Koopa's castle. The Luncheon Kingdom, which combines a volcano theme with a food theme to create this colorful and weirdly upbeat location inhabited by living forks. And finally, Crumble Den, aka the Ruin Kingdom, which is like this Dark Souls-esque location that features this incredibly cool boss fight against a giant dragon referred to as the Lord of Lightning, that I desperately wish got fully realized into an entire kingdom due to how original and cool its design is. But Odyssey's kingdoms aren't just fun to look at due to their unique theming. They're also an absolute blast to explore thanks to this game's legendary movement. Super Mario Odyssey without a doubt has the best movement of any 3D Mario game. There is no competition. It has basic movement options like the long jump, double and triple jump, and of course the wall jump that are more than enough for inexperienced players to make their way through the game. But for those more experienced players who want to go a bit further with the game's movement and master it, there are a ton of other moves that when used in conjunction with each other, offer so many fun ways to overcome obstacles and move around quickly. For example, inside the Sand Kingdom's inverted pyramid, as soon as you enter, you're met with a large gap, and a bullet bill launcher that's shooting bullet bills at you. Now, in order to cross this gap, you could just capture a bullet and make your way across with ease, or you could say no, I don't need the bullet, and instead make your way across with clever and relatively precise usage of the movement that is just so much more fun, fast, and satisfying. It really feels like a lot of Odyssey was designed with this two solutions to the puzzle idea in mind. You have the intended path that most people will take, and whether that be through capturing a conveniently placed enemy or following the direction the game is pointing you in. And then you have the less intended path that usually requires a decent understanding of the movement in order to pull off. I absolutely love this idea. On my first playthrough of the game, I didn't really understand Mario's movement all that well, so I usually stuck to the intended path. But on every subsequent replay I do of this game, I'm always finding new and unique ways to tackle challenges because of how well-rounded I've become with Mario's movement and physics. And the game doesn't just reward your understanding of the movement with quicker paths. It also rewards you for going out of your way to reach certain areas that may seem inaccessible at first. One of the best examples of this can be found in the giant room under Toast Arena, where the binding band used to be held. Here, there are pillars surrounding you, that at first just seem like simple set pieces to decorate the room. But if you try to reach these pillars by making clever use of Cappy, you'll actually be rewarded by sets of invisible coins scattered about on each of the pillars. This in and of itself is already cool. But what's more is if you take it a step further and make your way onto this small sliver of rock outlining the door, and perform a well-timed cap jump to make your way on top of the doorway, you'll actually be rewarded with a giant stack of 200 coins just because you were curious enough to try to get up there. And in Bowser's Kingdom, right below the area where Bowser takes off in his airship with Peach, there's a giant Bowser head that's similar to the pillars in Toast Arena, just seems like a decoration at first, but is actually somewhere you can get to by literally jumping down from above and angling yourself so you don't fall off. Here, you're not rewarded with coins, but rather a power moon. Meaning that not only was this area somewhere they knew you could go, but somewhere they expected you to go. And by making light of the sheer amount of movement possibilities you have in this game, and just how much effort was put into it, it may seem like Mario's movement is the forefront of this game, its main draw. But it's actually not, and that's the beauty of it. The main draw of Odyssey, and its main focus, is the captures, having the ability to be almost anything. So the fact that Nintendo put this much effort into Mario's movement, and the fact that it controls so well, is just a testament to how polished Odyssey is, and how much love was put into it. This game truly encapsulates the beauty of the original sandbox 3D Mario's 64 and Sunshine by offering open levels and stellar movement, but also expands upon them with so many new ideas. One of the many new ideas Odyssey introduces is the purple coins. Now, the concept of actual purple colored coins in Mario games isn't new. We already saw them in Super Mario Galaxy, but their usage and purpose here is completely new and different. In Odyssey, the purple coins are an actual currency you use, separate from the regular coins you collect, that can be used to buy souvenirs and costumes from a clothing franchise called Crazy Cat, but can only be used in the specific kingdom you collected them in. The main gimmick with the purple coins is that there's only a set amount of them in each major kingdom, with the goal being to find them all and be able to buy everything in each kingdom's purple coin shop. Now, in concept, I think the purple coins are an amazing idea. It's just another way Odyssey incentivizes exploration of its open sandbox levels. But in execution, this idea isn't without its problems. A lot of the time when you're trying to collect an entire set of a kingdom's purple coins, you'll always be stuck on one or two pairs you can't seem to find, despite you searching up and down every area tirelessly. Only to finally cave in and look up a tutorial online to find that they were hidden in the stupidest place possible. Like, just look at this set of purple coins in the Snow Kingdom. You literally have to jump into a hole in the ground that seemingly would kill you, but instead has a place you can land in to collect the coins. Holes in the ground usually mean death. This was a concept that has been literally burned into Mario players' heads since World 1-1 in Super Mario Bros. So why they decided to hide a pair of purple coins here is beyond me. Now, I don't think the solution to the purple coins' issues is to remove them outright. They are a really good idea, just plagued with some awful spots that they're hidden in that can turn a lot of players off from wanting to find them. The real way to fix purple coins is obvious. Either don't hide them in absurd spots, or allow the player to buy hints/arrows that point them in the right direction without fully giving out their location. Overall, I really like the purple coins. They are a genuinely cool new idea, I just wish they weren't annoying to collect at times. But my absolute favorite new idea introduced in Odyssey is very unsurprisingly the capture mechanic. It's hard, for me at least, to fully appreciate the capture mechanic as much as I did when the game first came out, just because of how used to it I am, because of how much I've played Odyssey now. But on my first playthrough of the game, I remember having an absolute blast just throwing my hat at anything that looked capturable and seeing what new powers they gave me. I mean, the fact that you can capture literally almost anything, yes, I mean anything, is just such a genius idea that allows for limitless possibilities. And while some of the captures in the game, like the meat or the boulder, may seem underwhelming and are more there as sort of a joke capture to make you laugh a bit, the ones with actual effort put into them, which is like 90% of them, are done remarkably well. And it's not like the game overuses certain captures and is rarely introducing new ones. It's always moving on to the next thing before you can even fully understand the last one's abilities. And despite there being over 50 things to capture in the game, Odyssey feels like it barely scratches the surface of this mechanic's potential. These captures aren't just one-off things to solve a puzzle that become useless right after either. They open so many possibilities within levels, so many different ways to traverse around, and are, for the most part, so unique from one another. The fact that within the first hour of this game, you can be a frog, an electrical wire, a chain chomp, a T-Rex, a pair of binoculars, a bullet bill, a Goomba, and a cactus, just shows the beauty of this mechanic and how many ideas it throws at you in such a short period of time. Even if we don't ever get an Odyssey 2, I really hope this mechanic returns in some shape or form. Nintendo could do so much with it. And all of this, the movement, the purple coins, the capture mechanic, the creativity, it all culminates together in the absolute pinnacle of Super Mario Odyssey, New Donk City. New Donk City is one of my favorite locations in any Mario game. There is so much to do here. You have its main mission, which first involves visiting the location during a thunderstorm and scaling the city hall to defeat the giant Mecha Wiggler who's been sucking the power from the city. Then you're recruiting band members for Pauline's festival, investigating the sewers of New Donk City, and finally taking place in the festival, which is still one of the coolest moments in any Mario game. But you also have everything outside of the main mission. I mean, you have an entire city to explore here. You can jump off cars, swing off streetlights, race an RC car, jump rope, and even play through a remake of Super Mario Bros. 1-1 in the theater. I can see why Nintendo was tirelessly promoting this up until the game's launch. There is just so much content, so many ideas crammed into this one level. And the little things, like sitting down next to this guy on a bench and getting a moon for it as he appreciates your company. Or the various Donkey Kong references spread all over due to the city's connection with Donkey Kong and Pauline, just fills the place with life, and really makes it capture the essence and craziness of the city it's inspired by, New York City. New Donk City isn't the pinnacle of Super Mario Odyssey just because of what it introduces. It's the pinnacle of Super Mario Odyssey because of how it takes advantage of everything the game has shown you thus far, and combines it all together in this beautiful amalgamation of creativity and love. I will never not love opening the game just to jump around here. It truly is a masterpiece of a kingdom. Despite the overwhelming amount of praise Odyssey got and still receives today, there is one critique almost everyone has about this game, and that's the moon system. One of the biggest things Odyssey did to streamline its open-ended sandbox gameplay was remove the boot-out system that plagued 64 and Sunshine, and instead allowed players to just keep adventuring after they had found a moon, with the obvious exception of multi-moons. This was obviously a great change, one of the best to the Mario sandbox formula. But with moons not kicking you out of a level, Nintendo was able to place way more around than they would in the old games. Instead of a level having 7 or 8 stars or shines to collect, now stages had between 40 to almost 90 moons in them. Some of these moons are in well-crafted sub-areas or just good hiding places, while others are just kinda there. A lot of people believe the reason for these out-in-the-open moons existing in the first place was because Nintendo wanted you to just be able to pick up the game and play for 5 minutes and be able to collect a moon, since the Switch is portable and all. And while these out-in-the-open moons have never really bothered me, I can absolutely see why people are annoyed at how lazy it feels like some of the game's moons were placed. I think there is a lot of good to come out of Odyssey's moon system though. I mean, outside of the exploration it encourages, you also have the sub-areas. The sub-areas, especially in the post-game, is one of the most underrated aspects of Super Mario Odyssey. The game has tons of them spread all throughout each kingdom, with every one containing a fun challenge that takes advantage of one of the game's mechanics. And whether that be a capture, Mario's movement, or sheep, they are, for the most part, a ton of fun and really creative at times. Outside of the main moon each sub-area has, there is also a secret second moon that is usually found by completing a harder challenge or searching around the place. I've always enjoyed the sub-areas in this game. They're what I look forward to whenever I get to the post-game, just because of how creative a lot of them get. Finally though, before I talk about Bowser, there's one last thing I want to mention, and that's the costumes. I remember when Nintendo first revealed costumes for this game, my and a lot of others' reactions to the news was just, oh, okay, that's pretty cool, but I'm probably just gonna stick to Mario's regular outfit. But when the game came out, I couldn't stop wearing different costumes due to how silly or cool a lot of them were. There's just some novelty to dressing Mario up in a cowboy hat, or clown suit, or football outfit, or nothing, and just running around and playing the game that way. Each major kingdom also has a purple coin outfit that dresses Mario in the appropriate clothing so he fits in wherever he's exploring. One of my favorite things about Odyssey's costumes though, is the references a lot of them hold, and just how deep some of these references go. For example, in New Donk City, you can buy the Builder outfit, which is an obvious reference to Mario's appearance in Super Mario Maker. However, in the Wooded Kingdom, you can buy the Scientist outfit, which at first looks like a completely new look for Mario, but is actually a deep-cut reference to Mario's appearance in a 1994 Japanese commercial for the Super Game Boy accessory. I still to this day think this is one of the coolest things. Not only does Odyssey allow you to dress Mario up and have him run around in absurd outfits, the outfits themselves are callbacks to Mario's past that really make this game feel like a celebration of Mario. More on that later though. For now, let's talk about Bowser. In Super Mario Galaxy, Bowser was the most threatening he had ever been. I absolutely loved it. The way he crashed the Star Festival, ripped Peach's castle up from the ground, lifted it into space, and how menacing he felt whenever you interacted with him, just made Bowser feel like a real villain that you had actual motivation to defeat, and not a dad who was trying to have a pool party with his son. In the next game, Super Mario Galaxy 2, Bowser retained some of the things that made him feel threatening in Galaxy 1, but just didn't have the same vibe. Largely due to how much Galaxy 2 sacrificed its story and atmosphere for better gameplay. And then in 3D World, Bowser just felt goofy. I mean, yeah, it obviously fit in and worked for 3D World, but Bowser has always been at his best when he's felt like an actual threat. It's what makes finally defeating him feel so satisfying. And when I say Odyssey delivers on making Bowser feel like a threat, I mean it delivers. Your first confrontation with Bowser after he sent you flying into the air and shredded your hat into pieces takes place in the Cloud Kingdom when you catch up with his airship. Here you battle atop the clouds, dodging the attacks he sends your way, and literally beating him up with the hat he defeated you with at the beginning of the game. If you're playing with Joy-Cons, you have the option to physically punch with them in order to deal damage to Bowser, which I've always thought was a cool little addition. After you defeat Bowser here and send him flying away, only for him to land back on his ship, he commands his cannons to fire at you. And while Mario is able to narrowly avoid a lot of them, before he's able to take off in the Odyssey, it gets hit, and is destroyed by Bowser, sending Mario and Cappy plummeting down to the Lost Kingdom where you have to repair it. Your next confrontation with Bowser takes place a lot later in the game, when you're on your way to Bowser's Kingdom. Here, Bowser stops you while atop this giant dragon, and orders it to shoot a huge blast of purple electricity at you, in order to presumably kill Mario considering his dialogue here, and once again destroys the Odyssey, with you having to defeat that giant dragon in a boss fight in order to move on. Your final confrontation with Bowser takes place after you defeat the Mecha Brutal and fly to the moon with the Odyssey, where Bowser is planning to marry Peach. I absolutely love the quiet ambience of the moon that plays once you arrive there, and the wedding bells that chime to indicate you need to hurry up and get there to crash the wedding before Bowser's able to force Peach into marrying him. After you finally make your way up to the wedding hall, you're able to burst in and stop Bowser, only to fall right into his trap. This final fight is just like the one in Cloud Kingdom. However, this time the stakes are higher, Bowser is much angrier, and overall, the fight is a lot more difficult. You have to dodge his fire breath, the spiky balls he throws at you, and the fake hats. The music here is just phenomenal. It's one of my favorite Bowser themes ever. It captures the mood and atmosphere so well. And once you're finally able to push through and start punching him one last time, seeing him slam into the wall and finally be defeated is so satisfying. But it's not over yet. As a final demonstration of just how imaginative and creative the Odyssey team got when developing this game, the final sequence has you capture and play as Bowser. In this final sequence, you use Bowser's raw strength to fight your way out of the collapsing insides of the moon. You can effortlessly break walls, shoot fireballs, and jump high up in the air as the character you've gone up against for years. There's this incredibly cool 2D section that you have to go through as well, that stylizes Bowser and Peach in their original 8-bit sprites. And of course, you have the final area. The area with an entire lyrical song attached to it. This final sequence is just so cool. It makes me wish Galaxy got something like this. Shooting fireballs to destroy the pillars, and clawing at that final rock to reveal the spark pylon you need to escape, just feels absolutely marvelous every time you do it. But, like with most Mario games, the credits rolling doesn't exactly mean your adventure is over. And in Odyssey's case, it's just the beginning. Remember when I said this game feels like a celebration of Mario? Well, there's no other place in Odyssey that feels more like a celebration of Mario and his legacy than the kingdom you unlock right after you beat the game. Welcome to the Mushroom Kingdom. This entire kingdom is filled with Mario series references. And whether it be the desert far off in the distance, referencing how close a desert is to the Mushroom Kingdom because it's usually the second world in 2D Mario games, or the Tanuki Tail tree that sits close to the castle that is an obvious callback to the exact same tree from Super Mario 3D Land, they all really bring this place to life. But there is no other Mario game that is referenced more here than the one that brought Mario to 3D in the first place. Super Mario 64. With the amount of callbacks to 64 here, the entire kingdom just feels like a beautiful love letter to that game. You got Yoshi on the castle, the jingle that plays when you drain the castle moat, jumping into paintings to rematch the bosses and hearing that iconic, the moons being retextured to stars with the classic theme playing, and of course, the entire courtyard from that game being accessible by wearing the Mario 64 outfit. It's all so cool. But the callback that really solidified my love for this kingdom is easily one of the simplest. You see, once you enter Peach's castle, you're greeted by a floor layout that is almost identical to the floor layout of the entrance from Mario 64, with the main thing missing being the doors to the other rooms. What's not missing, though, is the sun carpet on the ground that you looked up to the roof from in order to reach the wing cap level in Mario 64. When I first reached the castle on my very first playthrough, I immediately noticed this carpet, and jokingly looked up just like I would in Mario 64, not expecting anything. But to my surprise, you are actually rewarded with a moon for this, which is just like, wow. That attention to detail is absolutely insane. The only people who would know to look up like that are people who've played Super Mario 64. So that level of acknowledgement for such a minor detail has always stuck with me. I don't care if it's just my nostalgia for Super Mario 64, I absolutely adore this kingdom. Outside of unlocking the Mushroom Kingdom though, after beating the game, you not only get more moons that repopulate every kingdom you visited, even the Cloud and Ruin kingdoms in the form of the Moon Rocks, you also unlock the ability to travel to 2 additional kingdoms, given you have enough moons. At 250 moons overall, you get to travel to the dark side of the moon, where you have one final fight with all of the Brutals. First, you have to beat them all in a row in a boss rush, where you have the disadvantage of the moon gravity and the inability to gain health. meaning you can die incredibly easily here and have to start from the very beginning. Secondly, and finally, you have to face off against the Mecha Brutal again, however this time in Moon Gravity. And while the Moon Gravity may seem like it makes it harder, and was probably intended to do so, it actually makes it so you can easily get on top of the Mecha Brutal and defeat it in a much less difficult, but way more fun way. At 500 moons overall though, you gain access to the darker side of the moon. Yes, I know, very original naming. Here you take on what I can only describe as this game's perfect run / Champions Road equivalent. There are multiple sections that each force you to demonstrate a particular skill or set of skills you've learned along your journey. This level is difficult overall, but gets really hard at the end, and due to its length, having to start over is incredibly frustrating. And while it's not as hard as Champions Road or the Perfect Run, mostly because of how much more control you have over Mario compared to those games, this is still a very hard challenge for even the most experienced of players. And after you're finally able to complete it, you get to scale up a replica of the New Donk City Hall, while Cappy reflects on the journey you two have had, and a music box rendition of the game's main theme plays, bringing an emotional end to an absolutely beautiful game. Super Mario Odyssey is an absolute masterpiece of an experience. Start to finish, first playthrough to fourth playthrough, and first speedrun attempt to 50th. This game took the foundation that 64 set and Sunshine built upon, and improved upon it in the best ways possible. You're not booted out of a level anymore. You have more incentive to explore than ever thanks to the abundance of moons and purple coins to collect. And level themes are better than ever. The movement is on another level, and is by far the best movement any Mario game, hell, any platformer has ever had. It's not overcomplicated at first glance, so it's easily approachable to newcomers. But when you actually take the time to dig deep and understand it, you realize all the possibilities it opens up, and just how much you can do with it despite it not being the game's central focus. The actual central focus of the game, the capture mechanic, is one of the coolest mechanics in any Nintendo game. The team understood the possibilities allowed for, and gave us so many things to capture. But at the same time, it feels like there could be so much more due to how unique the idea is. Super Mario Odyssey is a game I fell in love with when it came out. It's a game that's always surprising you, always exceeding your expectations, and always reminding you that Mario will forever be one of the greatest franchises to ever grace gaming. Super Mario Odyssey is an absolute masterpiece. Initially released worldwide on May 30th, 2014 for the Wii U, and later re-released as an enhanced port for the Nintendo Switch on April 28th, 2017, Mario Kart 8 is the 8th entry in the Mario Kart series. Yeah, they got real creative with the names after Mario Kart Wii. Development for the game started in early 2012, with the team initially deciding on a drill that allowed players to dig and drive underground as the game's main gimmick. However, this idea was quickly scrapped when someone on the team suggested anti-gravity as a possible mechanic, as they found it to be a much more interesting and enticing concept than simply being able to dig a hole. Along with scrapping the drill mechanic though, sometime during development, the team had plans to finally add Kamek to the roster, a character that was originally planned for Mario Kart 64, but was replaced with Donkey Kong late into that game's development. Unfortunately, similar to Mario Kart 64, for some unknown reason, Kamek was scrapped again, with only his icon remaining deep within the game's files. Luckily though, Kamek was eventually added 9 years later in the Booster Course Pass, and about a year and a half into Mario Kart 8's development, we would finally get our first look at the game during E3 2013. This trailer not only showed off the brand new anti-gravity mechanic, but also confirmed the return of the gliding and underwater racing mechanics from Mario Kart 7. The big takeaway from this reveal though, had to be the visuals. I mean, for the consoles they released on, Mario Karts prior to 8 never looked bad per se, but they definitely weren't pushing the limits of what we thought was possible graphically from Nintendo. This game, however, was looking like it could be the most graphically impressive Nintendo game ever. And combine that with the hype of 7's gliding and underwater racing returning, the new anti-gravity mechanic, and just the fact we were getting a brand new Mario Kart. Needless to say, this trailer had people very excited for the game, and motivated the team to keep putting their all into this entry's development.
Mario Kart 8!
From the very moment you open the game, Mario Kart 8 is already showing off by trumping all other Mario Kart title screens. Instead of just seeing the same image and hearing the same voice line every time you open up the game like every other Mario Kart's title screen, 8 decides that for some reason, that's not enough. In this game, you have a plethora of different possible title screens. You have some with Mario, one with Rosalina, one with Bowser, one with Link, but by far the absolute best and funniest has to be
Luigi Kart 8!
There was literally no reason for Nintendo to put this much, hell, any effort at all into the title screen, but I absolutely love that they did. The title screen music here is also just a banger, and for the first time in Mario Kart history, isn't digitally composed, but is actually performed live by a big band, and just makes it hit that much harder. There's even a part of the song that plays the title theme from Super Mario Kart, and it's just amazing. Heading away from the title screen though, and into the actual game itself, you have quite a bit of options here on the main menu. Single player, multiplayer, online play, wireless play, and some smaller options that let you do stuff like listen to the game's OST, look at your stats and replays, and even some Nintendo Labo integration that allows you to control the game with a Toy-Con creation. For now though, we're going to be starting off with the single player mode, which brings us to the character roster, and oh my god. At the initial release of this game back on the Wii U in 2014, its character roster was much smaller, with half of the roster being locked behind completing certain cups. However, with the release of the 2 waves of DLC on the Wii U in 2015, the new characters added at the release of Deluxe in 2017, and the 8 more new characters added in the Booster Course Pass in 2023, Mario Kart 8 went from having one of the weakest character rosters in the Mario Kart series to having easily the best and most diverse roster in the entire series. Sure, there are some odd picks here like Baby Rosalina and the ever-infamous Pink Gold Peach, but they are more than made up for with the return of fan favorites like King Boo, Funky Kong, and Petey Piranha, as well as some of the newcomers like Kamek and Pauline. I also love how certain characters like the Yoshis and Shy Guys have different color variations you can choose for them, that even change their icon on the character select menu. Once you select a character though, you head into the Kart selection. Here we see the return of the vehicle customization from Mario Kart 7, which allows you to individually choose which vehicle frame, wheels, and glider you'll use. When you initially reach this section, you'll only have access to a handful of different parts to use. However, just like in 7, by collecting coins and races, you'll gradually unlock more and more parts over time, until eventually you'll have more than you know what to do with. Seriously, after unlocking every kart part in the game, there are more than 8,000 possible combinations you can create. And just like I said when I was talking about Mario Kart 7 a while ago, allowing players this much customization is a double-edged sword in a lot of ways. On the positive side of things, it can be really fun for newcomers and veterans alike to have access to all these options in order to create some funny loadouts. And the sheer amount of unlockable parts can encourage you to keep playing the game with the goal of unlocking them all and being able to experiment more with insane loadouts. But on the negative side of things though, shoving all these stats and thousands of possible combinations down a new player's throat can be incredibly daunting and make it really difficult for them to find a loadout that suits their playstyle. Regardless though, in the end, I do heavily prefer 7 and 8's kart customization over the older games'. It's not the best, but it's definitely a big step above what we had before. But enough about character rosters and kart customization. Let's get into what really makes a Mario Kart game great: the track selection. At release, Mario Kart 8 had a respectable 8 cups under its belt, the standard for Mario Karts at the time. However, with the release of the DLC in 2015, it got another 4 cups, upping its total track count to a staggering 48 unique courses. And I gotta say, the track selection here is pretty incredible. The new tracks here are some of the most creative and unique Mario Kart tracks in the entire series. And a lot of that is due to this game's brand new mechanic, anti-gravity. Anti-gravity allows for absolutely insane track design. Physics just don't matter anymore. Levels can twist and turn to the track designer's will, and in turn lead to some really cool moments in some courses. Like in Shy Guy Falls, where the anti-grav allows you to scale up a giant waterfall then shoot back down it at Mach speed. Or in Mount Wario, where the anti-grav literally lets you drive on the side of a giant running dam. The only real gripe I'd say I have with the anti-grav is that a lot of the time, despite you literally being upside down or completely sideways, the camera just doesn't reflect that, and it can sometimes take away from the craziness of it all. The Mario Kart TV replays, though, do a very good job at showing off the anti-grav. Speaking of the new tracks, though, outside of their design or use of this game's mechanics, their theming is just amazing. One of my favorite tracks in the game, Sunshine Airport, is not a favorite of mine because of its design or anything, but just purely because of the fact that it's an airport-themed Mario Kart track, and I think that that's a super cool and original idea. Same goes for courses like Mario Kart Stadium and Toad Harbor. The atmosphere and vibes of these tracks is just so good. And combine that with the amazing visuals, it's no wonder a lot of us still enjoy these tracks after over 9 years. I mean, honestly, I'd say of the 16 brand new tracks in this game, there are only 2 stinkers here. Those being Bone Dry Dunes and Rainbow Road. Bone Dry Dunes is just kind of boring, in my opinion. I've never been a huge fan of desert tracks, but this one in particular is bottom of the barrel. The slippery sand road along with the horrendously sharp turns just made this track not at all fun to drive on. The red sand aesthetic never really caught on for me. The layout is just random. And the anti-gravity section doesn't add anything to the track and doesn't even need to be there in the first place. The only reason this track exists in the first place is because Nintendo thinks for some reason that every Mario Kart needs a desert track, when in reality we should only get one if they have a good idea for one. Rainbow Road, on the other hand, isn't as bad as Bone Dry Dunes, but it's also not up to par with all the other tracks in the base game. I think the main reason this Rainbow Road fails is that it deviates way too far from what a Rainbow Road should be. Don't get me wrong, the space station theme is incredibly cool, and when it's done well in this track, it's done well. But honestly, that theme would work so much better as its own track. Because here, while you do have those space station elements, since it's trying so hard to be a Rainbow Road, you miss out on so many of the potential course elements a space station themed track would have. At the same time though, since it's still partially trying to be space station themed as well, it just gives the track this man-made feel, which is not at all what a Rainbow Road should be. It's missed potential on both sides in a lot of ways, which in the end leads to a track I don't hate because it does have some cool elements, but also one I don't exactly love because of the contradicting themes. On a more positive note though, we have the retro tracks. Retro tracks have been a staple of Mario Kart ever since DS, or as some would argue, Super Circuit, and in all games that featured them up to this point, there wasn't much done to change these tracks to take advantage of the new game's mechanics or make them fit in with all the new ones. They were just kinda there, and it made it incredibly obvious which tracks were new and which were returning. In Mario Kart 8, however, they went one step further with the retro tracks, and instead of just bringing them back, they completely revamped them. A track like Toad's Turnpike from Mario Kart 64, which was originally a pretty boring and uninspired figure 8 course, with basic cars on the road as its obstacles, is made much more interesting in Mario Kart 8, with the track receiving a beautiful visual overhaul, cars that you can trick and glide off of, and an anti-gravity section on the side which allows you to drive on the wall, speeding across boost pads. Wario Stadium now has an anti-gravity and underwater section, Rail Raceway is visually overhauled and is genuinely one of the best looking tracks in the entire game. SNES Donut Plains 3 was given a bunch of shortcuts and new paths to make it feel less flat and boring. GBA Mario Circuit has a raised up anti-gravity section. It's so cool to see these tracks given as much care and polish as the new ones, especially in the visual department. I mean, just look at what an SNES track looks like in Wii compared to 8. The step up in effort is very apparent. The shining star of this game's retro selection though, and the one Nintendo loves so much they put it on the box art of the deluxe version, is N64 Rainbow Road. This track is technically the very final course of the base game, and what a finale it is. The music, the visuals, and even the revamped design of the course is just absolutely jaw-dropping. Sure, it's a bummer that the track was made into a section-based course, making it so you only get to go around it once, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it's just a blast to race on. It's quite ironic that the best Rainbow Road in the base game, and the one that takes the best advantage of the anti-gravity mechanic, is a remake of a Rainbow Road from an N64 game. But hey, that's just how it is sometimes. Overall, the revamps to the retro courses in this game make them look and feel a lot less like old tracks to new players, while also allowing veteran players to see their favorites from past Mario Karts in a whole new and visually stunning light. But that's just the tracks from the base Wii U game. Available as paid DLC for the Wii U version, and just included for free in the Deluxe Switch version, Mario Kart 8 also has another 4 cups. What's interesting about this DLC though, is apart from the amazing brand new tracks and the absolutely stellar retro tracks included here, it also features some courses based on other Nintendo franchises like Animal Crossing, F-Zero, and The Legend of Zelda. This is so cool. You wouldn't expect Mario Kart courses based on Animal Crossing or Zelda to fit in or even be designed well, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. The way these courses slip in elements from their franchises, like the coins being rupees in the Zelda track, or the items in the air being held up by red balloons on the Animal Crossing track, do a really good job at making these franchises be represented well, and just in general show the amount of thought that was put into them. And I mean, the F-Zero tracks, they fit right at home here. I'm honestly surprised it took them this long to include them in a Mario Kart game. They are incredibly fun courses to race on, especially at high speeds. And speaking of high speeds, how could I forget about the brand new CC introduced in Mario Kart 8? 200cc. At release, Mario Kart 8 originally only had the 4cc options we come to expect in Mario Karts: 50, 100, 150, and 150 mirror mode. However, as part of an April Fool's joke update in 2015, Mario Kart 8 would receive a brand new speed class, 200cc. Apart from being incredibly difficult to control, but a lot of fun to master, this speed class completely broke some of the tracks in the base game. I mean, you literally clip into the ceiling on Music Park after going off the glider ramp. And on tracks like Dolphin Shoals and Mario Kart Stadium, the speed you have allows you to completely fly over shortcuts you would only usually be able to cut with mushrooms. 200cc is a lot of fun in my opinion. I love just flying across tracks at an absolutely absurd speed, and cutting all these shortcuts that just aren't possible in the lower classes. Although I can understand why a lot of people hate it, as on slippery tracks like Cheeseland or Sherbetland, it can be incredibly difficult to stay on the track, even if you have mastered brake drifting. In the end though, I think 200cc was a really cool thing to just randomly drop in an update, and I really hope we see it, and maybe even a possible 250cc mode in the next Mario Kart game. In terms of items, this game features an incredible variety of them. You obviously have the staples of every Mario Kart like the green and red shells, star, mushrooms, bullet bill, and blue shell. But you also have some more obscure returning items like the feather from Super Mario Kart, although it's exclusive to battle mode, and the boo, which was missing ever since Mario Kart DS. In terms of new items though, you got the piranha plant, which speeds you up eating almost anything in its path, the boomerang flower, which you can throw in front of or behind you with 3 uses, the Crazy 8, which replaces the Lucky 7 from Mario Kart 7, just adding one more item, and probably the coolest new item in the game, the Super Horn. A horn that, when used on a blue shell, completely destroys it. Ever since its debut in Mario Kart 64, the blue shell has always been the most controversial item in the series. Some find it incredibly unfair and the thing to always ruin their race right before they're about to win, while others find it to be the item that balances the game, stopping skilled players from getting too far ahead of the pack, and humbling them. With the addition of the Super Horn though, and it being possible to roll as an item in first place, players now have a way to avoid the shell, and I think this was Nintendo's way of appeasing both crowds, by not completely removing the blue shell, but nerfing it a bit. But while the blue shell is a controversial item that's loved by some and hated by others, Mario Kart 8 introduces one more new item that is universally hated by almost everyone: the coin. Returning from Super Circuit and Mario Kart 7, coins were littered along tracks, with each coin you picked up gradually increasing your top speed, with the max you could hold at once being 10. In Mario Kart 8, coins return and function exactly like they did in that game. They're littered across the track and you can only hold a max of 10. However, along with this, you can now receive a coin as an item in the item roulette, with it being extremely common in first place. The coins were a big issue in the Wii U version of Mario Kart 8, as you could only get one item at a time then, and if you were in first and needed a defensive item but instead got a coin, you were kinda screwed. In the Switch version, however, while coins still were an issue, the ability to hold two items at once now did remedy it a little bit. Speaking of version differences though, I think it's time we talk about one of the things Mario Kart 8 did the worst and 8 Deluxe did the best: Battle Mode. Following Mario Kart 64, which many believe to have featured the best battle mode in the series, the mode just seemed to be getting less and less attention in each new entry. I mean, don't get me wrong, none of these games' battle modes were bad per se. I quite enjoyed Double Dash and DS's, but they definitely weren't doing much new with it. With Mario Kart 8's, however, they literally just gave up. You only have one mode here, Balloon Battle, and instead of battling on courses specifically made and designed for the mode, you battle on Moo Moo Meadows. Yeah. They literally just took 8 tracks from the base game that you could go through backwards or normally, and called it a day on the mode. These tracks were not at all made for this, and a lot of the time leads to matches feeling incredibly empty and boring. The Wii U version's battle mode literally just looks like Nintendo forgot to add the mode, and like a day before release realized, and just threw together the most boring and uninspired battle mode in the entire series. It's honestly embarrassing, and by far everyone's biggest flaw with the Wii U game. With 8 Deluxe, however, Nintendo took the battle mode criticism to heart, and put their absolute all into 8 Deluxe's rendition of the mode. Instead of dumbass Moo Moo Meadows and Dry Dry Desert as the battle tracks, we instead got 5 brand new and 3 returning battle tracks. Those being Battle Stadium, Sweet Sweet Kingdom, Dragon Palace, Lunar Colony, 3DS Woohoo Town, GCN Luigi's Mansion, SNES Battle Course 1, and Urchin Underpass. Along with that, rather than just getting the basic ass balloon battle as the only mode, 8 Deluxe instead has 5 unique modes, the most in the series, with those modes being Balloon Battle, Renegade Roundup, Bob-omb Blast, Coin Runners, and Shine Thief. And, as I mentioned earlier, 8 Deluxe also sees the return of the feather item from Super Mario Kart, which is exclusive to this mode. I absolutely adore 8 Deluxe's battle mode, and it's a shame no one talks about or even plays it that much anymore. The physics are done incredibly well, and makes things like doing a quick U-turn feel quick and snappy. The music is top-notch, as is all music in this game, and the sheer amount of modes and maps offer a great variety here, with each mode honestly being super fun in their own right. The completely brand new mode here, Renegade Roundup, is so underrated. It's a blast to try and hide away to avoid being caught by the piranha plants. I can obviously see why even after 8 Deluxe completely revamped 8's battle mode and made it so much more diverse and original, that many still consider 64's to be the best, but man is 8 Deluxe's battle mode just an absolute joy. And in my opinion, the best in the series. Moving on though, we have the online, and it's done super well here. I love the ability to either play globally online against everyone to up your overall global score, open a quick room with friends, or join a tournament that focuses on a specific rule set like no items or pure 200cc. I also really appreciate the change to worldwide races, where now instead of letting you pick from the entire game's track selection before a race, you only get the choice between 3 randomly selected tracks, or just random. It stops people from struggling to know what courses they want to pick, especially with 8 Deluxe's insane amount of tracks, and helps races start faster as the timer isn't always run out because everyone was stuck on what track they wanted. In terms of the actual online itself though, it's one of the better Nintendo games lag-wise. I'm almost never experiencing connection issues when I play online, although it does still happen sometimes. Overall, online multiplayer in this game is good, and offers a great way to test your skills and see how many points you can accumulate over time. Initially having its first wave released on March 18th, 2022, the Booster Course Pass aimed to draw players back into Mario Kart 8 Deluxe by remastering courses from all over the Mario Kart series, even Tour, and adding them into the game over multiple waves. Starting off with the first wave, the tracks we got include Paris Promenade, Toad Circuit, Choco Mountain, Coconut Mall, Tokyo Blur, Shroom Ridge, Sky Garden, and Ninja Hideaway. Looking back on these picks now, they are incredibly basic. I mean, apart from Ninja Hideaway and Coconut Mall, the rest of the tracks here aren't all that interesting. Toad Circuit is literally the most basic that a Mario Kart track can get. Tokyo Blur and Shroom Ridge kind of blend in together too much. And don't even get me started on what they did to Sky Garden. I am all for GBA tracks getting amazing overhauls and changes when brought back as retros in modern Mario Karts. Just look at how incredible Ribbon Road and Cheeseland's overhauls were. But the difference with those tracks' overhauls as opposed to Sky Garden's is that while introducing so many new concepts and ideas to these GBA tracks, Ribbon Road and Cheeseland stuck to their original layouts, and despite all the new things they added to them, still felt like how those tracks felt back on the GBA. With Sky Garden, however, just one look at the map layout of this track in 8 Deluxe shows not only how much they changed the original layout, but simplified it. This track had so much potential to take advantage of Mario Kart 8's mechanics, yet instead we just got a watered down, babyified version of the course. Speaking of taking advantage of Mario Kart 8's mechanics though, not one track in this first wave features anti-gravity or underwater driving. Obviously this is completely okay. There are a lot of tracks in Mario Kart 8 that don't feature either of these mechanics, and it's not like I'm expecting nor want every track to. But when you're already simplifying tracks like Sky Garden, or just introducing extremely simple tracks in general like Toad Circuit and Tokyo Blur, the absence of these mechanics becomes very apparent. For a lot of the tracks in this wave, it just felt like the bare minimum was done. Even with one of the standout tracks, Coconut Mall, the cars at the end of the track that were pretty difficult and iconic moving obstacles in Wii and 7 were literally just stationary set pieces that did absolutely nothing if you touched or got near them in Wave 1. So despite all the hype and excitement surrounding this first wave of DLC, even the most diehard of Mario Kart fans, including myself, were pretty disappointed with a lot of Wave 1's shortcomings. But of all the things people were disappointed with or complained about at Wave 1's launch, the absolute biggest problem almost everyone had with it was the visuals. Ever since its release all the way back in 2014, Mario Kart 8 has continuously been praised for being one of the best looking Nintendo games ever made. It's clear that Nintendo put a hell of a lot of effort into making each track look as amazing as it possibly could on the hardware. With Wave 1 of the Booster Course Pass, however, well... yeah, I mean, it was pretty obvious from the first trailer we got of this in the February Nintendo Direct that the Booster Course's graphics, at least this wave's, wouldn't be anywhere close to that of the main games. So many flat colors and unpolished textures made it very clear to fans that Nintendo was just porting tracks that were originally made for Tour, and only slightly touching them up graphically. This was incredibly disappointing, as alongside all the other issues I mentioned, it just made the Booster Course Pass feel like some cheap cash grab to take advantage of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's popularity, rather than a genuine attempt to breathe new life into the game and keep it going a while longer. So overall, while Wave 1 was incredibly exciting as we were finally receiving new Mario Kart 8 content after literal years, its many shortcomings and overall lackluster track selection left a pretty sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, and had many feeling very skeptical about the next 5 waves. But regardless of how people felt about Wave 1, only just a few months later in August, we would see the announcement and release of Wave 2. The tracks we got in this wave were New York Minute, Mario Circuit 3, Calamari Desert, Waluigi Pinball, Sydney Sprint, Snowland, Mushroom Gorge, and Sky High Sundae. Just from the announcement trailer alone, it was clear that Nintendo was really stepping up their game with Wave 2. The track selection was way more interesting, the graphics were noticeably improved, and despite the DLC being advertised as only featuring returning tracks, this announcement trailer showed us a brand new track not seen in any prior Mario Kart, not even Tour, Sky High Sundae. This track's announcement was confusing, but one that was exciting nonetheless. And after only just a few days of waiting, Wave 2 was officially released on August 4th, 2022. At release, this wave was met with a lot more positivity than the first. It really felt like Nintendo was listening to the complaints people had and were genuinely striving to improve the paths. For example, after the outrage people had towards Coconut Mall removing the moving cars at the end, this wave actually updated the track to now make the cars that were once stationary actual obstacles that spin around and cause you to crash if they hit you. Or after people were super upset with Sky Garden's simplistic redesign, this wave's GBA track, Snowland, stuck to the course's original layout while also adding many new details and shortcuts that overall made it an incredible remake. One track that took many people by surprise in this wave though was Calamari Desert. Now, I've always been a pretty big fan of this track, and when it was announced for the Booster Course Pass, I was super excited. But wasn't expecting any drastic changes to this course, as Wave 1 didn't really add anything to its returning tracks. However, when I played it for the first time, I was absolutely shocked to realize they added an entirely new route to it that took place on the second lap. You see, in Mario Kart 64, Calamari Desert had this tunnel where the train would come out of and go into at the beginning of the course. This tunnel was not at all a part of the main track, and was only something you could really explore in time trials. In Mario Kart 8 though, the second lap incorporates this tunnel as a part of the course, and uses it as an all-new route, which I absolutely love. Adding new paths or routes to pre-existing tracks, especially in a way that incorporates a set piece that has always intrigued players or stood out to them, is nothing short of genius. It not only makes the track even more interesting for people who've never played it before, but it also breathes new life into courses longtime fans have raced on hundreds of times. Apart from Calamari Desert though, the real star of this wave was Waluigi Pinball, a fan favorite that people have been wanting in Mario Kart 8 for years. And while this track may not be my favorite from Mario Kart DS, I can very much appreciate its inclusion here. But as much as this wave was a big improvement on Wave 1, it still wasn't without its issues. While the graphics here were definitely better than Wave 1's, they still weren't even close to being on par with the base games, and that was a big issue for a lot of people, as it was still very clear these courses were being directly ported from Tour. On top of that, while this wave had incredible tracks like Waluigi Pinball and Mushroom Gorge, it also had SNES Mario Circuit 3, which featured absolutely no changes or differences from its last retro appearance in Mario Kart Wii. At the very least, they could have added a glider somewhere or maybe raised the track at some points, so it wouldn't be completely flat the whole way through, but they didn't, and it leads to this being one of the most boring tracks in the entire game. Also, the brand new track in this game, Sky High Sundae, was pretty cool to see, as we'd never seen it anywhere before. But in the end, this course does the exact same thing Excite Bike Arena does. It's an oval-shaped course filled with trickable ramps. On to Wave 3, this wave completed the first row of cups and marked the halfway point for the DLC. Introducing London Loop, Boo Lake, Rock Mountain, Maple Treeway, Berlin Byways, Peach Gardens, Merry Mountain, and 3DS Rainbow Road. Alongside the new tracks in this update, Wave 3 also introduced a custom items mode, where you could turn on and off specific items, a feature people have wanted in Mario Kart for decades. Similar to Wave 2, the courses in this wave still weren't up to par with the visuals of the base game, but also weren't as bad as the first wave, with just one exception: Rock Mountain. Gameplay-wise, this track plays great and is always fun to race on. Visually though, it's pretty bad. I mean, when you go off the glider ramp here and start flying through the air, you're gonna want some pretty visuals to look at. But instead, you just get a bunch of flat colors that are not at all appealing to look at. This is really unfortunate because while Nintendo does show genuine improvement graphically in a lot of tracks, courses like this still slip through the cracks and make them harder to appreciate when you have stuff that looks 10 times better releasing in the same wave. But while Rock Mountain falls short only because of its visuals, another track in this wave, London Loop, falls short because of its gameplay. The Tour City tracks are courses that I, and a lot of others, aren't the biggest fans of. Sure, their gimmick of changing every lap is cool, but a lot of the time the layouts of these tracks feel pretty directionless. And instead of trying to make a fun Mario Kart level, these courses often feel like they're trying to check things off on a checklist. Oh, we're in New York, we need to have the Empire State Building, Central Park, Times Square, etc. And in this attempt to fill a checklist, the actual layout and design of the course feels like an afterthought and leads to that directionless feeling. I'm specifically calling out London Loop on this because I feel like it's the biggest offender of the tour tracks being directionless. This map is almost impossible to follow your first way through. The turns seem to come out of absolutely nowhere, and overall, the course just feels empty. And I mean, since the whole gimmick of the tour tracks in the first place is that they're based on real-world locations with famous landmarks, why not incorporate those landmarks into the track more? If we're in London and you really want the Big Ben to be a part of it, why is it just in the background? Why isn't it actually incorporated into the track? There could have been this incredibly cool section where you go up Big Ben and have this mini clock section that could even use pre-existing assets from TikTok Clock or something. There is just so much potential in a lot of the city tour tracks, especially London Loop. On a more positive note though, this wave reintroduced half-pipes from Mario Kart Wii that are a lot of fun on the two tracks that use them in this wave, Maple Treeway and Merry Mountain. Also, similar to Calamari Desert, Peach Gardens was given a new route on the last lap that actually takes you through the entirety of the course backwards, which I love. The thing that had everyone most excited about this wave though was 3DS Rainbow Road. This Rainbow Road is hailed by many as the best in the series, and I can absolutely see why. The course is handled super well here, visually and gameplay wise. Moving to Wave 4, this is where the Booster Course Pass really stepped up in quality. This wave not only brought 8 new tracks, Amsterdam Drift, Riverside Park, DK Summit, Yoshi's Island, Bangkok Rush, DS Mario Circuit, Waluigi Stadium, and Singapore Speedway. It also brought us a brand new character, Birdo, and the promise of 5 more new characters down the line. This was an incredible surprise, and just another example of the Booster Course Pass continuously adding things that weren't originally advertised. I don't know if this was some sort of marketing strategy by Nintendo to keep hype around the DLC alive, or they just decided to add more stuff over time, but it is absolutely genius. Graphically, this wave was on another level with some of its courses. Tracks like Riverside Park and Waluigi Stadium are genuinely on par with the base game in a lot of ways. And the completely brand new track in this wave, Yoshi's Island, felt like something we'd see in Mario Kart 9 with how original and well made it is. Wave 4 was a big turning point for a lot of the hate the DLC was getting. It literally improved upon almost everything people were complaining about, while also giving new incentive to buy the Booster Course Pass because of the new characters. With the release of Wave 5 though, Booster Course Pass hype was at the highest it had been since the initial announcement of the DLC, all the way back in February of 2022. This wave brought us Athens Dash, Daisy Cruiser, Moonview Highway, Squeaky Clean Sprint, LA Laps, Sunset Wilds, Koopa Cape, and Vancouver Velocity. Alongside that, we also got 3 new characters, Petey Piranha, Wiggler, and Kamek. But even with all the hype that accompanied this wave at release, this wave in specific highlighted a huge problem with the Booster Course Pass that people had been complaining about for a while: the unfair course distribution. With the exclusion of Wave 5, up to this point, every single wave had featured 1 Wii track. With this wave, however, we were given 2 Wii tracks in the same update. This bothered a ton of people, because while yes, Mario Kart Wii is incredibly popular and features some of the most iconic tracks in the series, its overrepresentation in the DLC left games like Super Mario Kart and Mario Kart 64 to be super underrepresented, with both of them only getting 2 tracks each by the time the entire DLC was out. And not only was Wii being overrepresented in the pass, all the tracks chosen for it were fan favorites, while games like Mario Kart DS got tracks like Mario Circuit and Shroom Ridge, as opposed to its fan favorites like Airship Fortress and Luigi's Mansion. Apart from the overrepresentation drama though, Wave 5 was extremely strong. The brand new course of this update, Squeaky Clean Sprint, is still one of my favorite Mario tracks ever. The only other real big issue with Wave 5 was that the Sun and Sunset Wilds just doesn't set for some reason. Despite that being the main gimmick of the track in Super Circuit, and it also setting in Tour. Yeah, I don't know what Nintendo was thinking there. And if Wave 5 wasn't enough to convince you of Wii's overrepresentation, then just look at Wave 6. This wave brought with it Romavanti, DK Mountain, Daisy Circuit, Piranha Plant Cove, Madrid Drive, Rosalina's Ice World, SNES Bowser's Castle 3, and Wii Rainbow Road. And while we thought we were only getting 2 characters in this wave, Nintendo instead surprised us again and gave us 4 new characters. Those being Diddy Kong, Funky Kong, Pauline, and Peachette. As a Wii fan, I absolutely love Wave 6, but I can understand why some were disappointed to not see their favorite courses from other Mario Kart games return in this wave. The characters here though are top notch. The amount of effort put into Funky Kong and Pauline alone is crazy. Their animations are super well done and make them an absolute blast to play as. Hell, Pauline even sings when she's gliding. The standouts of this wave though have to be SNES Bowser's Castle 3 and Wii Rainbow Road. The glow up from the completely flat, unchanged SNES Mario Circuit 3 to the completely overhauled and redesigned SNES Bowser's Castle 3 is crazy. There was so much effort put into making this track's overhaul as interesting as it possibly could be. I love how instead of changing the layout of the track, and just in general simplifying it like they did with Sky Garden, this track stays true to its original layout and adds so much more depth to it, and in my eyes, really shows how far the Booster Course Pass has come. Wii Rainbow Road though, might just be my absolute favorite track of the entire DLC, and maybe Mario Kart 8 in general. Everything from the gameplay, the music, the visuals, just make this track an absolute joy to race on. I mean, the fact that they brought back the firefall effect that would happen when you fell off the track in Wii just shows how much love was put into this course. It is an absolutely stellar track to end the DLC on, and a perfect way to send off Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Released worldwide on October 31st, 2019, Luigi's Mansion 3 is the 3rd entry in the Luigi's Mansion series. No, really? The team behind the development of this entry was none other than Next Level Games, the same team responsible for Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon on the 3DS and every Mario Strikers game. And despite releasing over 2 years into the Switch's lifespan, Luigi's Mansion 3 actually started out as a Wii U game, implying that the game began development well before the Switch's release in March of 2017. With a lot of the main concepts and ideas seen in the final game, including the setting of the hotel, already being planned when this was supposed to be on the Wii U. I imagine this game was delayed to the Switch because Next Level Games either didn't have enough time to finish it before the Wii U's era was over, or Nintendo was just not okay with having a game like this be trapped on one of their worst selling consoles to date. In order to make this entry in the series feel like a genuine step forward and not just another Luigi's Mansion game, the team brainstormed a ton of new concepts that could make this game feel different, with one of the most prominent being the introduction of Gooigi, a gooey, emotionless version of Luigi who, despite being invulnerable to hazards like spikes and being able to slip through metal bars and grates, will immediately melt if even a drop of water lands on him. But while being an idea conceptualized for Luigi's Mansion 3, this game wasn't actually where we first saw our Gooey King. Gooigi's first appearance actually came just about a year before 3's release, in the infamous Luigi's Mansion 1 remake on the 3DS. Here, he just kinda serves as a simple player too with no special attributes or abilities. Pretty lame if you ask me. Also, according to Luigi's Mansion 3's producer, Gooigi is apparently, edible, and tastes like coffee. The game opens up with this really cute and surprisingly well-animated cutscene of Mario, Peach, some Toads, and Luigi and Polterpup on a bus ride to a very nice-looking hotel that they were all invited to. And upon making your way to the hotel with Luigi foreshadowing Mario Wonder 4 years in advance, and entering the hotel, you gain control of Luigi. And while everything here looks nice, It's pretty obvious something's up with all the staff and their not so convincing disguises. Regardless of that though, the little interactions you can have with the characters while walking around here are so cute. You get to see Polterpup steal Mario's cake, and a group of toads desperately trying their best to manage Peach's luggage. Everything from the toad driving the bus barely being able to see over the steering wheel, to the fact that renditions of the different characters' themes play when you walk near them in the hotel lobby. It's just all so smile-inducing, and really paints a picture for the sheer amount of polish and love this game is littered with. After making your way to your room though, this is where things start to take a turn for the worse. Once you're done exploring your room and make your way into bed, Luigi instantly falls asleep upon literally 1 second of attempting to read a book, and a few hours later is quickly awoken by the sound of Peach screaming. And after exiting the room and entering the hallway, the once light, upbeat, and cheery atmosphere of the hotel is quite literally transformed into the dark, depressing, and gloomy atmosphere the Luigi's Mansion series is known for. Exploring around the now haunted-looking hotel, you're not only able to go into the other characters' rooms and see that Mario really took advantage of that room service, but you also come face to face with the hotel's owner, Helen Gravely, and the main antagonist of the Luigi's Mansion series, King Boo, where he reveals that he's trapped Mario, Peach, and the Toads in paintings, similar to Luigi's Mansion 1, and plans to finish off his collection with Luigi. This leads into a really cool, but obviously really easy chase sequence with King Boo, which results in Luigi falling down a laundry chute all the way down into the basement in order to avoid capture. Down here you find a brand new model of the Poltergust in the trunk of an old car, and finally are able to start capturing ghosts. This whole opening does a stellar job at not only introducing how the game feels control-wise, and the main premise of it with the hotel and the game's story, but also at establishing the cartoony horror vibe it goes for. Speaking of the game's cartoony horror vibe, I really want to touch on how much Luigi's Mansion 3 nails translating that classic theme into a video game, because I feel like it's an amazing aspect of it that often goes overlooked. A lot of the stuff that happens in this game feels straight out of a Scooby-Doo episode from the 1970s, and it works so well for Luigi's Mansion. These games aren't supposed to be Nintendo or Next Level Games' attempt at a horror game filled with jump scares, blood, and a big T for teen rating. Rather, just games that strive to give Luigi a spotlight, taking advantage of his fear of just about everything, and translating it into a fun Ghostbusters-esque puzzle-solving game. At its core, this is still a game that's to be enjoyed by the same wide audience of people who play just about any Mario game. And instead of babyifying this game and making it boring and have no atmosphere at all, they take advantage of the fact that this is still a Mario Universe game, and basically make the thing a playable cartoon. Everything from the cartoony art style to the silly animations and interactions it's packed with, this game is full of so many of the classic cartoon tropes you'd see in shows like Scooby-Doo and the Flintstones, and it's honestly admirable at how well they did at adapting these tropes into a video game. I mean, just look at the way Luigi falls when the floor is ripped right from under him, or how he just barely avoids getting his nose cut off by medieval weapons swinging from the ceiling. It's so good. I love how they went all out on making this game feel like a playable cartoon. Another aspect of this game that makes it feel like you're playing a cartoon is how expressive Luigi and the other characters are throughout the journey. I mentioned some of the interactions in the opening of this game, but it doesn't even come close to stopping there. The way Luigi coughs around dust, how Egad runs, I mean look at this man. Toad's expressiveness throughout the FNAF VHS found footage type thing, and Luigi's various interactions with Polterpup are amazing. The level of sheer detail present in the animations and expressions of various characters in this game do an amazing job at immersing you in this cartoony world, and is to date one of the best ways the Mario universe has been portrayed animation-wise. Returning to Egad though, and his incredible running animation, similar to the two Luigi's Mansions before this, Egad plays a pretty big role in the adventure. This time he sets up Luigi with two new moves. The Burst, which allows you to essentially jump by shooting out a burst of air, and the Suction Shot, which lets you shoot a plunger out that can attach to various objects, allowing you to do things like destroy vending machines and swing around like your Spider Ouija. Along with these two new abilities, Egad also gives you probably the funniest item in the game, the Virtual Boo. The item you'll use to contact Egad while you're exploring the hotel, and be able to view the map of the current floor you're in. Both Luigi's Mansions before this had similar devices like the Game Boy Horror and the Dual Scream, which were based off the Game Boy Color and the DS. But the Virtual Boo stands out because it's based on the Virtual Boy, the worst selling Nintendo console to date and easily the company's biggest failure, even more so than the Wii U. The Virtual Boo comes with almost all the amenities its real-life counterpart did, complete with its iconic red screen, and even EGA's overconfidence that with good marketing, the device will be flying off the shelves. Just like how Nintendo thought the Virtual Boy would sell well. Enough about EGAD and the Virtual Boo though. I think it's time to talk about easily the best part of this game. And that is exploring the plethora of insanely creative and well-designed floors the hotel has. Before that though, I think the biggest thing to address first before delving into the hotel and its various floors is the fact that despite being called Luigi's Mansion 3, this is the first game in the series to not take place in a mansion at all, instead taking place in a giant hotel. And while being super ironic because of the series' name, having this game take place in a hotel was one of the coolest things they could have done. The hotel setting with its almost infinite possibility of floors allowed the level designers to spread their wings and not be forced to adhere to a certain theme, like the first game was, but also be able to fit all those themes in one building without it feeling weirdly forced, because of the nature of a hotel resort and its elevators separating them, instead of just trying to separate different themes across multiple different buildings like Dark Moon attempted. It's a great way to evolve the series thematically, and allow it to explore a bunch of different themes without them feeling shoehorned in like they did in Dark Moon's multiple mansions. Personally, I'll take a Luigi's Mansion that doesn't take place in a mansion, but still somewhat seamlessly is able to incorporate a variety of different themes inside one building, instead of one that desperately wants to explore different themes, yet tries to stick to the mansion theme and creates like 5 different mansions to try and explore those themes. Sorry, Dark Moon. Heading into the floors themselves though, this is where the cartoony nature of the game makes a big return. While some of these floors are somewhat realistic in their size and theme, and genuinely do seem like places that would fit and be featured in a hotel, others absolutely do not, and I love it. Some of these floors are so insane in what they do that half the time I forget I'm even in a hotel, and again, feel like something straight out of a cartoon. I mean, just look at the Tomb Suites on the 10th floor. This place not only features an entire mini desert complete with a giant pyramid in the center, the pyramid itself houses an entire labyrinth of rooms below it, featuring literal death traps. I mean, the stark contrast between floor 12 being pirate themed and housing a literal mini ocean with a 2-scale pirate ship floating around in the water, to the next floor, floor 13, just being a regular old gym, is so funny. And goes to show that not only did the developers explore a plethora of unique ideas to have for these floors, they clearly had a lot of fun with it too. My absolute favorite floor here though has to be the 8th floor with Paranormal Productions. This floor sees you exploring a bunch of different movie sets in order to try and find the director ghost megaphone so he can film his final movie. When you initially visit these sets, they're nothing more than just regular old movie sets. I mean, sure, they're cool, the blue screen to add different backgrounds and effects and posts, the studio lights, and of course the director's chair. But what really makes this floor cool is what happens when you look through one of the cameras in the various different sets. Suddenly, instead of just being basic movie sets, they're transformed into what they would look like after all the cool movie effects were added, and it completely changes how you view them. Along with that, by positioning Luigi on the set and looking through the camera as Luigi, you're able to control Luigi and interact and walk around the set through the camera lens as if it were a real place, playing out these movie scenes as if you were actually in them. I absolutely love this concept. And in order to play out all the scenes correctly, you have to bring different items from different sets into the scenes, and I always have a blast doing this whenever I get to this floor. It's just such a creative idea for not only a Luigi's Mansion game, but just a video game in general. All of this culminates into finding and returning the director's megaphone and helping him film his final movie, which you actually get to star in, and with Luigi's help, take down this giant Godzilla terrorizing the city. It's amazing. Well, that is until you realize that the giant Godzilla you were fighting is just a regular ghost in a costume. Jokes aside though, having the final boss fight for the film set take place in an actual movie is so cool. And is just another way this game constantly shakes up its formula. But the insane amount of creativity present in these floors doesn't just stop with the floor themes themselves. Like I was just talking about with Paranormal Productions, the unique boss fights each floor holds and the boss ghosts themselves are so cool. Boss ghosts have always been incredible in Luigi's Mansion games, but here they're even better because of the unique and different themes each floor has. You have your pretty cool, but also pretty basic boss ghosts like Cruller, the lazy and easily frightened mall security guard, Chef Souffle, the chef, and Johnny Deepend, the bodybuilder ghost pretty similar to Biff Atlas from Luigi's Mansion 1. But then you have super creative ones like Amadeus Wolfgeist, a professional piano player, whose piano playing changes depending on the stage of the boss fight, and eventually becomes the piano by haunting it. King Mac Frights, a medieval king who fights you atop his horse trying to joust with you, and Captain Fishhook, one of the only non-humanoid boss ghosts in the entire series, being a giant shark, who in my opinion has one of the most fun boss fights in the entire series. Seeing you roll explosive barrels into his mouth while he possesses the ship itself, and hanging on for dear life when he flips the ship sideways and tries to swallow you. And even for the not so creative boss ghosts design-wise, that doesn't mean their fights aren't unique and fun. Johnny Deepend, who I mentioned before, has a fight where he's chilling in the pool, and you have to try to distract him as Luigi, while Gooigi slips through the metal fence and attempts to drain the pool so Johnny gets stuck in the drain. A lot of puzzle games like this struggle with their boss fights because of them simply not being a priority for the team, or just the moves the character has not fitting well for boss fights. But with Luigi's Mansion 3, that is absolutely not the case, as just about every boss fight here is unique from one another and extremely fun to fight. Unfortunately though, the key word, or words here, is just about every boss fight. You see, 95% of these fights are a blast. I don't find them tedious or annoying. They're super well designed fights against mostly super well designed ghosts. But the 5% that I don't find a blast, and honestly kind of despise, are the Polterkitty fights. And yes, I mean fights plural. Conceptually, Polterkitty and their fights sound cool enough. It's a cat version of Polterpup that is a pet of the hotel's owner Helen Gravely, that she sends out after Luigi in order to halt his progress in reaching her and King Boo. Polterkitty does this by sometimes stealing the elevator button you've just gotten from defeating a boss as you're about to push it and go to that floor. After that, you have to scour the floor below you and look for Polterkitty and fight it. Sounds okay enough, right? Well, the issue here comes with the fact that you have to do this 3 times per encounter. 3 times you have to nearly beat it, have it run off to the floor below the one you're on, and fight it again until finally getting the button back. Every time I put in an elevator button and see that evil cat appear, I let out the biggest sigh imaginable because I know the next 10 to 20 minutes of my life are going to be pure polter hell. I think Polterkitty could have worked a lot better if this only happened like once, and you didn't have to chase it down multiple floors. It's just kinda unnecessary backtracking and wastes a ton of time. On a more positive note though, we have easily one of my favorite aspects of the entire game, and that's the money. Jokes aside though, collecting money, gems, and gold is easily some of the most fun I get out of this game. Gold collecting has always been a huge part of the Luigi's Mansion series ever since the first game, with the gold collecting and the score it awarded you upon completion being one of the original's driving factors due to its short runtime and arcadish level of replayability. Here, collecting gold isn't a driving factor of the game as the arcadish replayability is almost entirely gone because of the game's much longer runtime, but exploring every nook and cranny and trying to get as much as you possibly can is easily the most fun it's ever been for me. Sure, I don't feel compelled to grind the game over and over again to try and get the best final score possible because of, again, the much longer runtime, but every time I return to this game every couple years and replay it, I'm always searching every drawer and closet to see what I can find, and always looking for new secret treasure rooms I hadn't found before. I've played through this game 3 times now since it came out, and I have yet to get the highest final rank possible. But hopefully one day I'll get it. For those who don't care about collecting gold though, and just kinda wanna beat the game, EGAD offers you the EGAD Shopping Network. This cool little shop that lets you buy golden bones that revive you upon death, and scanners that help you more easily locate gems and boos. Speaking of the gems though, searching for these is just as fun as searching for gold. Finding these usually requires you to think outside the box, and a lot of them are honestly pretty rewarding and fit in really well with the floors they're in. I also really like how each floor has a different design for the gems. It's a cool touch. The last thing I want to talk about before we get into King Boo and the final fight is a common complaint this game gets. And that's that it completely abandons one of the main things that made the first game so loved by its fans. And that's the replayability I mentioned earlier. I've never really understood this complaint because not only does straying away from the short runtime and arcadish replayability allow them to experiment with a lot more ideas and really turn these games into full-fledged action-adventure experiences, this also wasn't the Luigi's Mansion game to stray away from the short runtime. It was Dark Moon, which, according to HowLongToBeat.com, is literally longer than Luigi's Mansion 3. No hate to Dark Moon, though. Being the main antagonist of the Luigi's Mansion games, and essentially Luigi's Bowser equivalent, King Boo's return in this game was not a surprise at all. But I'm really happy that instead of painting him as the one and only villain of the game, he instead is working alongside Helen Gravely, the hotel owner who's a big fan of King Boo, and freed him from Egad's lab. Helen is seen watching over Luigi for the whole game, getting more and more angry as he gets closer and closer to her office on the top floor. And once you reach the top floor, I absolutely love the 4 little rooms you have to solve in order to unlock her office and save Mario. The puzzles are all really cool and creative, and this one room even has a mini model of Gloomy Manor from Dark Moon. The fight with Helen herself is also pretty good as well. It's nothing mind-blowing, but having to switch between Luigi and Gooigi in the fight always keeps me engaged, and despite not being the most interesting fight, it's definitely one of the most difficult. Once you do defeat her though and save Mario from his painting prison, you're greeted by one of the cutest cutscenes in the entire Mario franchise.
Yeah! Whoa! Oh! Ah! Oh! Oh yeah! Yeah! Way to
Mario!
go, Luigi!
Hey!
Oh!
Oh, yeah!
Huh? Oh!
Come on, this way.
This way.
Huh?
Oh, let's go.
Huh?
Come on.
Ha!
Oh yeah.
Ha ha! Come on. Mario? Oh, okay.
Going back to how I was talking about how animated and expressive the characters are in this game, this cutscene is one of the best examples. Charles Martinet does an incredible job with his voice work here, and it's quite literally impossible to not have a giant smile on your face the entire time while watching this. This continues throughout the entire time you're making your way up to the roof of the building, as Mario effortlessly runs and jumps his way up, happily encouraging his brother to hurry up so they can rescue Peach. Once you make your way to the top and do rescue Peach though, the three's cute reunion is cut short as King Boo appears, trapping everyone except Luigi, yes, even Egad and the Toads in a painting, and leads into the real final battle. This fight is pretty good. It's genuinely pretty difficult because not only are some of King Boo's attacks hard to predict, as you progress into the later stages of the fight, more copies of him appear and the attacks are doubled and then tripled. The setting of this fight is probably my favorite aspect of it though. It takes place on the absolute highest point of the hotel. The arena is illuminated by the bright and beautiful lights in the sky, along with the hotel's roof lights. And just the whole vibe of being on a giant skyscraper hundreds of feet off the ground is super cool. It kind of reminds me of 3D World's final fight in some ways. I really like the variety in King Boo's attacks here though. The unpredictability and difficulty of them makes them an actually good challenge that doesn't feel unfair. Just requires you to have a really good grasp on the game's main mechanics, and is definitely leagues better than the final fight from the first game. And after slowly making your way through the fight and chipping down King Boo's strength, grabbing his tongue with Luigi and slamming him into the ground over and over again has never felt better, and serves as a satisfying ending to a stellar game. The Luigi's Mansion series is not one that people talk about very often. I mean, what is there to say other than speculate about future games in the series, or the possibility of it getting a movie adaptation in the form of a Mario Movie Universe spin-off film? Well, for the first two, maybe not that much depending on how you view them. But for the third game, regardless of how you feel about the series, this is a game that deserves to be remembered. For something that could have played it so safe and just stuck Luigi in another mansion trying to save Mario from King Boo again, They shake it up quite a bit and bring in a whole new setting into the mix, that being the hotel, and with the use of amazing animation, transform the entire experience into a playable cartoon. These characters have never been more expressive, and it really makes me wish we got to see more of this. I absolutely love Luigi's interactions with everyone, the creative ways he's scared by the ghosts, and just how he acts in this game in general. Luigi's Mansion 3 pushes the series to be more than it ever was, filling this entry to the brim with more passion, love, and creativity than you see in 90% of AAA games that are released nowadays. I sincerely hope this entry sets the groundwork for the rest of the Luigi's Mansion series. Because with Luigi's Mansion 3, Next Level Games has proved the series is in great hands with them. Just make sure Polterkitty isn't in the next game.
Oh, yeah.
Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye. Ha. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Oh. Oh. Phew.
Released worldwide on February 12, 2021, Bowser's Fury is technically the 7th mainline 3D Mario game, but also not really. As you probably know, Bowser's Fury is a side mode inside of the Switch port of Super Mario 3D World. So it's not really its own thing, but I mean with the amount of content here, it's really hard to pass it off as just some simple extra mode. Bowser's Fury is easily the most expansive and well-crafted side mode we have ever gotten in a Wii U to Switch port. Where most Wii U ports just add a new character or some new levels to try to entice previous Wii U owners to buy the games again, 3D World adds an entire separate sub-game inside of it that has fostered a huge speedrunning community dedicated to pushing the game to its absolute limits. It's incredible. Getting into the game itself though, Bowser's Fury opens up with a very similar opening to that of 3D World. But instead of finding a clear pipe and traveling to the Sprixie Kingdom, Mario instead finds a trail of goop that leads him to what seems to be Shadow Mario's signature M graffiti from Super Mario Sunshine drawn on the ground. While inspecting this graffiti, Mario is consumed by it and transported to a mysterious new land, where he crash lands in the center of a giant footprint. After getting Mario's head out of the dirt, the game gives the player some time to get familiar with the controls and make their way over to what appears to be Bowser's airship that's crash landed into the ground. Upon getting onto the airship, a giant Bowser wakes up and just starts going crazy, shooting fireballs into the air and causing these giant pillars to fall out of the sky. After avoiding Bowser's mayhem and collecting the first of this game's signature collectible, the cat shine, Bowser flees away and the sky clears, revealing a giant lake that's been mostly polluted by black sludge. From the water that isn't polluted though, a giant landmass erects from the water. On this new landmass, Mario meets up with Bowser Jr., who begs for his help, telling Mario that one day Bowser randomly just got all big and mad and that he can't change him back on his own. Upon hearing Jr.'s little sob story, Mario reluctantly agrees to help Jr., and the two team up to try and save Bowser. This opening is honestly pretty good. It's not anything special, I mean there's obviously been much better 3D Mario openings, but I really liked the subtle little sunshine reference with the Shadow Mario M graffiti on the ground. And I absolutely loved how the lightning strike here illuminates Fury Bowser's silhouette before he wakes up and starts wreaking havoc. The coolest part of this game's opening though, has to be the introduction of Bowser Jr. as Mario's companion character. It's awesome to see him finally have a mainstay role in a 3D Mario game for the first time since Galaxy 2, and it's even more awesome that he's actually fully playable here. By connecting a second controller, a second player can take control of Bowser Jr. and help Mario out along his journey. Bowser Jr. can ascend and descend in the air with his clown car, hit and defeat enemies with his Super Mario Sunshine inspired paintbrush, and even reveal hidden power-ups on the wall by drawing graffiti. Apart from the game that Bowser's Fury is a side mode of, 3D World, the two-player here is easily one of the best two-player experiences in a 3D Mario game. I never really liked the co-star thing in the Galaxy games for multiplayer, as it was just kind of boring. And while I liked Odyssey's multiplayer with Cappy, as it let you be much more in control than with the co-star, controlling Bowser Jr. here is just so much more fun. He actually feels like a fleshed out second player who can actually be useful. Speaking of controls though, the way Mario controls in this game is actually quite interesting. You see, since Bowser's Fury is built off of 3D World's engine and is just essentially an extension of 3D World in a lot of ways, Mario actually controls exactly the same as he did in that game here. Gone is the crazy amount of depth and preciseness Mario had with his moveset in Odyssey, and returning now is Mario's much more simple moveset he had for 3D World. You don't have the double jump and triple jump anymore, and the moves you do still have like the side flip, dive, and long jump don't reach as far as they usually do, and are more there as sort of a visual flair to make Mario's moveset seem more fluid than it actually is. Now while this sounds awful and makes it seem like Mario's movement here is the most limited it has ever been, there's a reason for this. The power-ups. Spread all throughout just about every area you explore in this game are a variety of different power-ups that enhance Mario's moveset and make controlling him much more fun. In Bowser's Fury, you got power-ups like the Cat Bell, Boomerang Flower, Fire Flower, and Tanuki Leaf, which all are obviously returning from 3D World. And while every single power-up here is useful in their own right, the Boomerang Flower is good for nabbing close-by collectibles, the Fire Flower is great for defeating a gang of enemies from far away, and the Tanuki Leaf is great for crossing a large gap. The power-up you'll get the most use out of here is the Cat Bell. The Cat Bell allows Mario to climb up walls, scratch at enemies to defeat them, and dive out of a jump. Cat Mario is so much fun to move around with because of all the abilities it has. Climbing up walls makes high up places much easier to reach. Being able to perform a simple scratch to defeat most enemies makes blasting through a certain area much easier. And being able to dive out of a jump is just as useful and fun to perform as the dive move is in other 3D Mario games like 64, Sunshine, and Odyssey. The catsuit also has minor things about it that make platforming with it feel very smooth and responsive. You got the mid-air scratch you can do that serves as a great mid-air correction tool if you need to hold your place in the air or quickly change your direction. You can chain cat dives together to make traversing long stretches of land easier. And most importantly, Mario meows. Overall, the movement in Bowser's Fury is great. The diverse selection of power-ups here that you can select from at any time makes it so the player is always prepared for just about any situation, and makes traversing this game's world an absolute blast. Speaking of this game's world though, I think it's important to note that Bowser's Fury is an entirely open world game, a first for the Mario series. Every single 3D Mario game to ever release, even counting the handheld ones like 64DS and 3D Land, has always had a hub world or hub ship in Odyssey's case, that Mario has used to travel to different locations or levels. In Bowser's Fury, however, everything is all contained within one giant map, meaning that if you want to go to a certain location, you can just go there, instead of having to return to a hub world and select a level and sit through a loading screen. Personally, I love this. I think Bowser's Fury is designed really well around its open world, and it doesn't feel at all forced or anything. I love just how seamless the transition to different levels are, with the music kicking in right as you enter the area of a stage, and fading out as you get farther away from it. There's a lot of charm to just continuously being able to play a game without being interrupted or stopped by having to sit and watch a loading screen. The absolute best part of Bowser's Fury's open world though, is how the levels literally change right in front of your eyes. You see, since you obviously aren't booted out of an area when you collect a cat shen or anything, the way Bowser's Fury adds to a level or introduces a new mission is by changing the level right in front of your eyes in real time. Take Claw Swipe Coliseum for example. When you first visit this place, it's a pretty small coliseum that doesn't really have much to offer in terms of size. But after completing the first mission of the area, running away from it a bit and looking back at it, you'll see a new level of the coliseum literally emerge from the ground right in front of your eyes. It's so cool. Having levels change in real time like this just makes the entire experience seamless. It feels like such an amazing compromise between Mario 64 and Sunshine's ideas of having levels change over time, but requiring you to leave that level, and Odyssey's idea of having levels not change over time, but never booting you out. The idea is so cleverly executed here, and I really hope it's what we see going forward in future 3D Mario games. Moving on though, I wanted to talk about something I noticed a lot when playing this game back for this video. And that's how this game reuses, but also remixes a lot of ideas and aspects from 3D World. Obviously it's not a surprise at all that the game would do this, but I absolutely love the way it does this. For example, in 3D World there were sometimes enemies on the world map that would block your path that you're rewarded with a green star for defeating. These enemy fights would take place in a small arena-like area that you couldn't get out of, and offered a pretty cool way to get green stars. And in Bowser's Fury, spread throughout the map there are a few purple buttons placed in random locations. Upon hitting one of these buttons and activating it, a bunch of enemies will appear, and Mario will be trapped in a small arena-like area that he can't get out of until he either dies or defeats all the enemies. If you do manage to defeat all these enemies though, you're awarded with a cat shine similar to how you're awarded with a green star in 3D World. I absolutely love this. It's such a cool way to translate one of 3D World's ideas into an open world environment, and certainly not the only example of this. As I briefly mentioned earlier, each level in Bowser's Fury has a set of missions to complete. But what I didn't mention is that a ton of missions, and sometimes even just levels in general here, actually take direct inspiration from concepts seen in 3D World's levels. Take for instance the mission Feasting on Fuzzies on Risky Whisker Isle. This mission sees the player making use of a piranha plant that they can hold to eat up some fuzzies. After eating up all the fuzzies, the player is awarded with a cat shine. This concept of eating up fuzzies with a piranha plant is directly taken from the level Shadow Play Alley in 3D World, where the player, over the course of the entire level, uses a piranha plant to clear the path of fuzzies. And it's not like the game is just straight up stealing these ideas, it's adding something to those ideas and building off of them. Just look at the mission atop Mount Magmeow in another level. This mission has the player scaling up a mountain using switchboards. And while on these switchboards, the player has to avoid these enemies called fuzzlers, and hit switches that change the direction of the switchboard's track. And while this concept is derived from the level Switchboard Falls in 3D World, where the player does exactly that, in Bowser's Fury, the idea is used in a completely new way. It's used as a means of making scaling this giant mountain even more challenging than it already was, which is just so cool. The last example I wanted to mention of this idea of remixing and translating 3D World's concepts can actually be seen in an entire level of Bowser's Fury. That level is Pipe Path Tower. Pipe Path Tower is all about clear pipes. Throughout almost every mission here, you're trying to choose the correct clear pipe path to make your way to the top. And in one, you're trying to clear the pipes of these dangerous spikes. This whole clear pipe gimmick obviously comes from them being a major part of 3D World, but the way they utilized here is specifically derived from 3D World's clear pipe cruise, which is all about, you guessed it, taking the correct clear pipe path and clearing them of spikes. Overall, Bowser's Fury does an incredible job at taking ideas from 3D World, remixing them, and translating them into an open world environment to make them feel fresh. I will always appreciate just how much Bowser's Fury pays homage to 3D World with its level design. With pretty much every single other aspect of this game out of the way, I think it's time we talk about the big man himself, Bowser. Throughout almost every single second you play this game, looming in the background at the very center of the map lies Fury Bowser. As time passes, you'll start to notice that Fury Bowser becomes less of a giant blob sticking out of the ground, and more of a huge giant shell that's ascending into the air. After enough time has passed, Bowser's shell will turn orange and it will start raining everywhere on the map, regardless of where you are. And very soon after that, the sky will turn to a hellish orange color and Fury Bowser will start roaming free. When Fury Bowser comes out, the entire tone of the game completely changes. You go from listening to happy Mario music and jumping around with the beautiful blue sky in the background, to listening to heavy metal while running for your life while one of the scariest, but easily the coolest renditions of Bowser chases you around, breathing fire, causing pillars to fall from the sky, and just causing absolute mayhem. I absolutely love how Fury Bowser happens in real time. It's just like 1 minute everything's quiet and peaceful, the next, hell. The only real issue I have with Fury Bowser sequences, and really the only issue I have with the game in general, is that sometimes Fury Bowser can happen when you absolutely don't want it to happen. I get it's a part of the game, but it feels a little excessive at times, especially in the post-game when you're just trying to collect the rest of the shines. Moving on though, without a doubt the best part about Fury Bowser in this game are the fights with him. As you progress through the game, your goal is to collect enough cat shines to unlock the current area you're in's Gigabell. After collecting enough cat shines to unlock a Gigabell, the next time Fury Bowser comes out to wreak havoc, the Gigabell will awaken and Mario will be able to collect it, turning him into Giga Cat Mario. These fights with Fury Bowser are just incredible. It feels so good to grow to his size and be able to stand up to him and see the map from his perspective. And while the first fight with him is relatively simple, with each new fight, Fury Bowser starts using more and more moves and actually becomes pretty difficult to defeat at times. The last fight with him though, is easily the best of the ones in the main story. It starts off exactly the same as all the rest, just with Bowser having more health than usual. But after you defeat him, he comes back freed of the black sludge that once took over him, and now is just this giant version of regular Bowser with bright white eyes that is trying to steal the 3 Gigabells. During this final sequence, you chase Bowser aboard Plessy, dodging his attacks, and ramming the stolen Gigabells into him to try to break open the crystal containing them. And after evading his attacks for long enough, you're finally able to ram the crystal of Gigabells into Bowser for the final time, defeating him and bringing an end to one of the coolest final sequences in a Mario game. When Nintendo Switch Sports was announced, I was cautiously excited. From the trailer, the game looked really fun. Sure, it was a shame that we wouldn't be returning to Woohoo Island, but hopefully this new place, Spoko Square, would be just as full of life and hold lots of fun to uncover secrets just like Woohoo Island did. The only thing I wasn't too excited about was how the game was only launching with 6 sports, with others like golf coming later. This is a big issue Nintendo sports titles have been having for the last couple years, and I really wasn't too happy about this game following that release strategy as well. But after a short wait of only 2 months from its initial announcement, Nintendo Switch Sports released worldwide on April 29th, 2022. Now before I criticize this game and explain why I think it fails as a Wii Sports game, I want to first look at it simply as its own thing, completely separate from the series it's a part of, and just look at the sports themselves. There are 7 sports to choose from in the game, those 7 being tennis, chambara, soccer, volleyball, badminton, bowling, and the recently added golf. Kicking things off with tennis, it is incredible in this game. I was never really a fan of it in the original, but with the improved motion controls of the Joy-Cons, swinging and hitting the ball has never felt more responsive. Even when playing online, a place where Nintendo has famously struggled with input delay issues. Tennis overall feels incredible and is a lot of fun to play in short bursts. Chambara, or what it was previously called, sword fighting, was one of the most anticipated sports of the entire game. And while I don't think it lives up to its previous iteration, which I'll elaborate more on later, the sport is fun. The inclusion of 3 different sword types allows for many different playstyles and strategies. The regular sword is great for offensive players doing lots of knockback. The charge sword is perfect for people who play defensively, with its counterattack and charge strike you can perform after blocking hits for long enough. And the twin sword is great for both styles, offering a strong spin attack after its meter fills up. Oh yeah, and if you play offline against CPUs, you can fight Matt if you input the right combination before the match, and he's just as difficult as he used to be. Soccer is an interesting one. It feels extremely out of place compared to any other sport in the game. Every other sport featured here is almost exclusively played with motion, while the majority of soccer is based around using actual buttons on the controller. You have to use the control stick to move, A button to jump, ZR to dash, and really only use motion to kick the ball. The shootout mode this sport has, which I haven't been able to play because I don't have the leg strap accessory, looks fun, but that's just a side mode. The actual sport itself is pretty boring in comparison. It's slow, janky, and really doesn't fit in at all in this game with its over-reliance on anything but motion controls. Volleyball, on the other hand, is a very welcome addition to the series. The timing aspect of it is incredibly fun to improve at, and the pace of the sport is not nearly as slow as I thought it would be. Setting up shots with your teammate, trying to perfectly time every move so that you can spike the ball as hard as you can, or trying to line up where you think the opponents are going to send the ball is surprisingly fun. This sport is not one I would play for more than a couple rounds at a time, but overall controls and plays really well. Moving on to badminton, it's alright. It's just that the sport is way too similar to tennis. I mean, if the game launched with like 12 sports or something, I would be perfectly fine with having one of the sports be similar to another, but this game only launched with 6. It feels like such a wasted opportunity for Nintendo to not switch badminton with something more distinct to make each of the sports on release stand out. Gameplay wise though, the sport functions fine. I mean, it can feel a little slow at times, but that's just badminton. There really isn't anything they could do about that. The drop shot is fun to try and perform at the correct time, and the swinging is just as responsive as tennis, but at that point, I'd rather just play tennis instead. And for the last of the sports that came on release day, we have the one, the only, bowling. Back in my Wii Sports Resort video, which you can check out here, I said that bowling felt a little better in that game than it does in this one. And if I hadn't finally realized my Joy-Con's motion detection was broken when I went back to this game for this video, I probably would have said that again. But after playing this sport with my left Joy-Con, I pretty quickly realized that something was very wrong with my right one. Bowling in this game feels fantastic. I can now confidently say that Nintendo Switch Sports has the best feeling bowling in the series. Curving the ball is incredibly responsive, hitting the pins feels amazing, and the online survival bowling was a great way to translate the sport online. Along with this, bowling is one of the only sports in the game to feature a separate mode. This separate mode being the special mode, which sees the player avoiding a variety of different obstacles on the lane while they bowl and try to get the highest score they can on its various difficulties. It really was a shame to not see more side modes for this sport though, and just the game in general. But just like with Chambara, I'll get into that a little later. Golf is the first and only sport added after this game's release at the time of recording this video. There is also no official announcement of any others being added anytime in the future, so I think it's safe to say the game is probably not receiving any more for the time being. With that in mind though, golf is amazing. This sport is incredibly responsive, even to the point where I had a hard time getting used to how precise it was. This iteration of golf features 21 holes, all from previous Wii Sports games. And seeing these classic courses remade in HD was such a joy. The only sad thing about these courses being remade was that Woohoo Island was removed from the background of all courses from Resort, which really dampens any and all hope we have of ever seeing that island again. On a brighter note though, playing online for golf was actually a lot of fun. Just like bowling, they added a survival golf mode for online play, which sees every player playing at the same time, with the winner being the one who gets the ball in the hole in the least amount of swings. When I played this online, I was awful. I didn't get par on a single course and was constantly getting double and sometimes even triple bogeys, which to my understanding is one of the worst scores you can get in golf. But somehow, I won the entire thing, by a very significant margin as well. I don't know if I'm not understanding my score correctly, or if I was in the craziest mid-off of my life, but I managed to win. Leave a comment if you know, I guess. Overall, golf is definitely one of my favorites in the game. The accuracy of the swings and their turning courses make it a very fun/nostalgic time. And now with all the sports covered, the most positive part of this entire video, I think now is a perfect time to get into the negative aspects of this game. More specifically, why it fails as a Wii Sports game. First off, we have the Miis, an absolute staple of the Wii Sports series. It was so fun to create a Mii of yourself, a friend, or family member, and plop them in the world of Wii Sports. Seeing them golf, bowl, box, sword fight, and canoe added so much charm to the experience. Their simplistic, goofy natures fit the games perfectly. The sportsmates, however, are kinda lifeless. I mean, they aren't awful looking, they're just kinda there. And I wouldn't care all too much about them if it weren't for the fact that they're almost required if you want to take full advantage of the customization in Switch Sports. Going into the game on release day, I was pretty dead set on using my Peter Griffin Mii throughout my entire time with the game. I unlocked my first cosmetic, which was an outfit, and put it on Peter without a problem. However, once I unlocked a hat, I learned that only sportsmates could wear facial accessories. So if I wanted to say, make use of 75% of the customization options, I was gonna need to switch to a sportsmate. Which was really annoying to me and a lot of people. as what made these games so fun was being able to play as my goofy little Mii characters like Peter Griffin. I can understand Nintendo pushing for these sports mates as an alternate character option for those who don't like the Miis, but limiting the Miis to only one of the 4 customization options really diminishes any reason to play as them. I mean, I see all these people with these cool ass facial cosmetics while I'm stuck here only wearing my red tracksuit. Come on Nintendo, just let me put cat ears on Peter Griffin! While on the topic of the cosmetics though, I think they're amazing and really help those who enjoy using the sports mates have their characters stand out more, as the base customization for them is pretty limited. But the only way you can earn these cosmetics is by playing online. Hell, the only way to get anything progression wise out of this game is to play online, which is the exact opposite thing this series is known for. Just look at the original Wii Sports. Every time you completed a round of one of the sports, your ranking would go up or down, depending on how well you did, with tennis, baseball, and boxing having you go up against stronger opponents the higher your rating got. In Switch Sports, however, there is no offline rating system. If you're playing a game like tennis or Chambara that sees you facing off against an opponent, you just choose one of 3 difficulties, which is really lame. My absolute favorite part of Wii Sports Resort was trying to climb to the top of the ranking of a sport and challenge each one's respective champion. In Switch Sports though, the only way to climb the ranks is online, through its Pro League. And while that's amazing for online, there absolutely should have been an equivalent for offline play. Especially due to the fact that playing Switch Sports Online requires a paid subscription on top of the price you already paid for the base game. On top of the fact that there is no offline ranking system, there are barely any side modes for the sports, making it so the only thing you could do offline is just play the base sports and that's it. Even returning sports like bowling and Chambara that famously have had some of the best side modes in Wii Sports history feature no additional content other than bowling having the special mode with the obstacles on the lane. Bowling could have brought back the 100 pin mode, Chambara could have brought back Speed Slice and Showdown. Showdown was my absolute favorite mode to play in Wii Sports Resort when I wasn't grinding to be the champion of the other sports. You get to explore all these different places of Woohoo Island, all while destroying any enemy in your path. It was pure and simple fun. Imagine being able to explore Spoko Square with this mode. You would get to see it at various different locations, times of day, and maybe even seasons. It would be so much fun. The inclusion of the new sword types would add so much strategy to this mode as well. It's such a missed opportunity. Sports like badminton and tennis could have had training modes like from the original Wii Sports, which would see you trying to keep a rally for as long as possible, or try to hit the ball or birdie in a certain area of the court. The lack of side modes really makes it impossible for me to say this game features the best versions of Chambara and bowling because there is so much missing content. Sure, these are the most responsive and accurate version of these sports, but some of the most important things that made them so addictive and charming in the first place are missing. The Wii Sports series has always had a distinct art style, one that fit really well with the simplicity of the Miis. Even Wii Sports Club kept the style of the originals when bringing the series into HD. This art style has always been a huge part of the game's charm, but in Nintendo Switch Sports, pretty much all of the series' charm is lost, and not just in the art style either. Just look at bowling. Everyone remembers the little goofy spin the Miis in the background did when you threw the ball backwards. It was iconic, it was funny, it was charming. In Nintendo Switch Sports though, you can't even throw the ball backwards in the first place. The little Easter eggs and gags that the original and Resort were full of are just gone in this game, and overall makes the world of this place feel lifeless. Then there's Spoko Square. I was actually optimistic for this place. I mean, I would have loved to see Woohoo Island return, but this place had potential. From the trailers, the backgrounds looked extremely detailed and lively. I imagined we'd be able to explore it and find little secrets and collectibles all about while we walked to the different sports. Maybe even if you were online, you'd see players spread all around with little messages and art like in the Splatoon Hub worlds. Something like this could really have brought the place to life. But alas, we got nothing. Just a simple menu. And despite Spoko Square being extremely detailed and lively, we only get to see bits of it in the background. I mean, why even make backgrounds that detailed in the first place if you won't let us explore them? Anything you saw in Wii Sports Resort was something you could cycle or fly to. The exploration of that game is what brought Woohoo Island to life. Spoko Square could have been so much more. But I mean, why even bother creating this brand new place if you're going to do nothing with it? Everything about Nintendo Switch Sports just feels bare bones. It does the absolute least it possibly can to try to qualify as a Wii Sports game. Even the most basic entry in the series, the original Wii Sports, has more depth than Nintendo Switch Sports with its training modes and skill rating system. Switch Sports really disappointed me. The Wii Sports series, as stated in the intro, is an incredibly beloved series, but it seems like Nintendo had no care for its legacy and impact when they made this game. I hope by watching this video, even if you don't agree with me on some of the things I've said, that you can at least understand why many people like myself find the game disappointing and flawed. I wouldn't really care all too much about Switch Sports' flaws if it weren't for how heavily Nintendo marketed and promoted the game as part of the Wii Sports series. So much of the charm the series was known for is lost for seemingly no reason. While the online and gameplay improvements are impressive, the game just falls short in other areas. I mean, they allow Miis to be used, but offer little to no customization of them to try to lure you into using their new sports mates. There's practically nothing to do offline other than challenge the same 3 CPUs over and over. And as a result, the game feels incomplete. It really fails to live up to the other entries in the series. Released on October 20th, 2023, Super Mario Bros. Wonder is an absolutely beautiful return to the creativity and innovation that put 2D Mario on the map in the first place. After years of the series being dormant and, well, stale following the New Soup series, Nintendo wanted to do something different to ensure that the series' return actually meant something, and prove to everyone that the inventor of 2D platformers was still the king of the genre. So, after the release of New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe in January of 2019, Nintendo's strongest development division, Nintendo EPD, began work on a completely original 2D Mario experience. One that would be separate from all other entries before it, and one that would definitely not be sporting the word new in the title. And in order to make sure this game was as unique as it possibly could be, the team was given absolutely no deadlines on when it was to be finished. No deadline on a prototype demo, no deadline on the game's main concepts, just complete and utter freedom over how long they had to work on the game. So, with no deadline in sight, early into development, the team sat down and had an idea sharing session in order to come up with various unique and innovative ideas that would surprise players and keep them engaged. A strategy commonly used during the early stages of development for 3D Mario games. During this session, the team had a ton of fun brainstorming, and eventually ended up with over 2,000 ideas written down on sticky notes, with longtime Mario series composer Koji Kondo even pitching in a few ideas of his own. But as productive as this idea session was, a lot of the ideas the team came up with were a bit more on the wacky side, even for Mario, and weren't things they could simply implement randomly in a level and have fit in. I mean, ideas like slithering pipes, singing piranha plants, stretchy Mario, and waves of stampeding bulls proved to be pretty hard to implement without it seeming like Mario had gone on an acid trip or something. So, how did they solve this problem, you ask? They gave a reason for Mario to go on an acid trip. Yes, very early into development, the team realized that if they were truly going to be able to implement all the ideas that they wanted to, they were going to have to fully lean into the wackiness of them. So, in order to do so, they created an item that would be hidden in every single level that would drastically change it when collected, allowing any and everything to happen. This item would eventually go on to become the Wonder Flower, the flower that allowed all the team's wacky ideas to come to fruition, and one of the main gimmicks that would be crucial in setting this game apart from its predecessors. Upon starting the game for the first time and selecting your character, you're greeted with an opening that's honestly pretty different from what we're used to. Of course, you've still got Bowser as the main bad guy, but instead of kidnapping Peach, this time he sets his sights on Prince Florian's Wonder Flower and transforms himself into a giant castle. However, instead of doing this in an attempt to take over and conquer the Mushroom Kingdom like we're used to, he does it to try and take over a brand new kingdom introduced in this game, the Flower Kingdom, a neighboring kingdom to the Mushroom Kingdom. And so, with Prince Florian's Wonder Flower stolen by Bowser and his kingdom in danger, Mario and friends, who originally were just meant to be visiting the place, decide to team up with Prince Florian in order to save the Flower Kingdom from Bowser.
I believe in you!
For a 2D Mario opening, this is honestly pretty decent. I mean, it's nothing special, but then again, it doesn't have to be. The new setting of the Flower Kingdom is a great change of pace, especially since it's the first time a 2D Mario hasn't been set in the Mushroom Kingdom since Super Mario World's release over 33 years back in 1990. And I absolutely love that instead of kidnapping Peach for the 88th millionth time, Bowser tries something different, leaving her alone and allowing her to actually be a playable character. In the end though, this opening does a great job at setting the tone of the adventure, introducing the new kingdom, the Wonder Flower, and the fact that Bowser has turned himself into a giant head castle thing. Speaking of the Flower Kingdom though, despite being right next to the Mushroom Kingdom, this place is vastly different from it, and actually feels like a brand new location and not just some excuse by Nintendo to sell us on the game by saying it's a different kingdom. They did an excellent job in almost every department showing us how distinct this place is. It has unique level themes we've never seen before, brand new set pieces, its own currency and residence in the form of the purple coins and poplins. But above everything else, the thing that stood out the most to me, and the thing that really made the Flower Kingdom feel fresh, is the absolutely insane amount of new enemies that inhabit it. When I was playing through this game for the first time, it felt like I was being introduced to a brand new enemy I'd never seen before in almost every level. Not including different forms or bona fide versions of pre-existing enemies, there are just about 35 brand new enemies introduced in this game, and over 60 if you count their different forms. I am not joking when I tell you that there are more new enemies introduced in this game than old ones, and I absolutely adore it. Plus, these new enemies aren't just palette swaps or reskins of pre-existing enemies that do the same things as them. They have very unique designs and function in incredibly cool new ways. Take the Mama, for example. This tadpole-like enemy may look cute at first, but once anything gets close to it, it opens up its giant mouth and runs toward it at full speed in an attempt to eat it. The game takes advantage of this enemy pretty well too with one of the Wonder Flower effects, where you're turned into a Goomba and can't jump to avoid the Mamas, so they become a lot more dangerous, forcing you to be stealthy and hide in the bushes from them. Or just look at the tailies. These enemies hang from the ceiling, dropping spike balls down at the player. However, if you jump at the vine that hangs down from them, you can swing on it and defeat them. Along with this, if there's multiple of them in a row, you can chain defeating them and stylishly swing across the level with ease. The absolutely insane amount of new enemies introduced in this game do an excellent job at not only immersing you in the brand new kingdom, but also do well at continuously surprising you with how they work. The Flower Kingdom doesn't just feel distinct though. It also looks very distinct because of the direction the team took with the art style and animation in the game. For as long as I can remember, fans have been asking for a 2D Mario that faithfully adopts the style seen in the promotional artwork and manual for the classic 2D Mario games on the NES and SNES. This old artwork showcased such a cartoony and expressive version of Mario and his world that games like Super Mario World tried their very best to capture with the limitations of their graphics, but just weren't able to. But as graphics rapidly improved and Nintendo brought 2D Mario back to home consoles on the Wii, replicating this art style was more than doable. However, was something that the company just wasn't doing for some reason, as they instead chose the bland and basic art style we see in all the new Super Mario Bros. Games. With Wonder, however, it's evident from just one look at this game that not only did Nintendo finally lean into this style, they dove head first into it and created the absolute best looking 2D Mario to date. The animation though is really what carries this style, and brings that classic artwork to life. I mean, just compare this freeze frame of Mario mid-jump to this promotional artwork made for Super Mario Bros. 1 on the NES. It clearly takes direct inspiration from that, and I love it. And when comparing the animations in this game to that of the ones in the new Soup games, the difference is night and day. Little things like Mario going through a pipe that were dead simple and soulless in the new Soup games are so full of life and expression and wonder. The fact that each power-up has its own unique transformation sequence, as opposed to the simple flashing transformation they used to have, just goes to show how committed Nintendo was to bringing the classic Mario art style to life. The way Mario's hat falls over his eyes when performing a ground pound, or how he cowardly hides his face inside his hat when crouching and timidly throws fireballs, does such an amazing job at showing off the character's goofy and expressive personality that was just absent in the new Soup games. The most simple and honestly best way I can describe Wonder's art style and animation is that they make Mario feel like Mario. Sure, Mario's a hero, but he's not the stoic and expressionless type we see in the new Soup games. He's silly, and Wonder shows that off in the best way possible. But enough about art styles, animations, and enemies. Those will never be the core of 2D Mario. The core of these games is and will always be the levels. And with how much Wonder already delivers in all those areas I mentioned before, you'd think it maybe struggles a bit in its level design, but fortunately, that couldn't be farther from the truth. Super Mario Bros. Wonder features without a doubt some of the best levels in 2D Mario history. So let's take a look at a few of the best ones, starting off with Piranha Plants on Parade. This level starts off simple enough. You have this cool background section where you go behind the level to collect some coins, you come face to face with walking piranha plants. Simple stuff really. Just introducing concepts you'll see expanded upon later in the game. However, once you reach this stage as Wonderflower, things start to get weird. Whereas the first level caused a wonder effect first-time players who viewed the trailers for the game would expect, where the stage went on crazy acid trip mode and pipes became sentient and started moving, Piranha Plants on Parade somehow manages to do something even weirder than that. The stage becomes an auto-scroller, and, well...
Are they singing? They're singing.
On my first playthrough, this took me by absolute surprise, and I just had the biggest smile on my face the entire time. I can just imagine the team sitting down thinking of ideas, and someone at the table being like, "Hey, what if we had piranha plants perform a musical number in the second stage of the game?" And everyone there just being like, "We are doing this." And while in retrospect, this obviously isn't the most insane thing ever, having this in the second level of the game really drives home to the player that these Wonderflower effects can literally be anything, and that there is no way you can predict what's next, and I love that. Moving on though, we have the stage Out My Way Valley and Fluff Puff Peaks. This level sees you avoiding, burning, and destroying these giant ice blocks that get in your way. There are these little tiny enemies called Out My Ways that populate the stage and kick the ice blocks at you. And it's just really fun to ride these ice blocks across the stage or just destroy them to get somewhere. The real fun of this stage though comes from its Wonderflower effect, which sees you trying to stay atop this giant rolling snowball as it absolutely decimates the stage in front of it, even destroying the goal pole and having you go past it in order to find a secret exit. I don't really know what exactly stood out to me in this stage other than the wonder effect of course, but I just found it to be a lot of fun. Messing around with the ice blocks and sliding around the slippery slopes was just overall enjoyable. Speaking of enjoyable though, just look at the level Wubba Ruins in the Fungi Mines. This level sees you navigating through giant blocks of goo that freely allow you to slowly move in all directions when inside of them. I really liked this concept because it's something new and interesting that the game just decided to introduce. Later into the level, you also run into these swamp-like enemies that target you and try to catch you off guard to squish you. But of course though, the star of this level is the Wonderflower effect, which transforms you into a Wubba, allowing you to stick to walls and effortlessly move through the goo blocks. And this isn't the only level that has a Wonderflower effect turning you into an enemy. There are tons of wonder effects that transform you into all types of enemies, and even set pieces sometimes. And it just keeps every level feeling fresh. So yeah, Mario Wonder has some absolutely amazing levels. I mean, I only scratched the surface just recalling some of the ones I remembered the most. But there's one thing that makes the levels in this game even more fun, and actually adds some strategy to them. The badges. You see, as you progress through the game, you'll notice things on the world map that aren't levels, but instead are badge challenges. These badge challenges equip you with a badge that gives you a unique power or move that you didn't have before. There's the parachute cap that allows you to glide down from high places, the dolphin kick that lets you quickly zoom through the water, the crouching high jump which allows you to perform an extra high jump by charging one up while crouching just like in Super Mario Bros. 2, the grappling line that lets you grapple to walls, and a bunch of others. Upon completing a badge challenge, you unlock said badge and be able to use it in any main level moving forward. However, the catch here is that you can only have one badge equipped at a time, meaning that there's actually some strategy in deciding on what badge to use for what level. No pun intended, but this is an absolutely wonderful idea. Okay, pun very intended. Not only does this create strategy like I said before, but it also makes the game that much more interesting. Badges like the Sensor Badge make me want to go back to levels I've already beaten to search for secrets and things I might have missed. The Jet Run Badge makes me want to speedrun levels to see how fast a time I can get. The Invisibility Badge makes me want to challenge myself and see how many levels I can beat without seeing my character. It's just such a genius way to incentivize replaying levels, while also being useful in clearing levels for the first time because they might just give you the edge you need to beat a certain level or boss. I'm sure badges are going to be something we see in every 2D Mario moving forward. They are such a great idea that I'm pretty surprised weren't thought of sooner. One of the things I was most anticipating leading up to the release of Mario Wonder was how they would handle Bowser. I mean, from the trailers, I could tell he would be in this giant floating head thing, but I really wanted to know what the fight with him would be like. Ever since New Super Mario Bros. Wii, final Bowser fights in 2D Marios have always been these giant spectacles. So, what would Mario Wonder's giant spectacle be? Well, instead of the final Bowser fight being the main spectacle, the entire final world is just one giant show put on by Bowser. Every level here is framed as some sort of challenge Bowser's created for Mario, with an audience of enemies cheering you on in the background. These levels in and of themselves aren't really anything special. I mean, they're cool, but a lot of their charm comes from the fact that they're staged as this big show. The final level, however, is one of the absolute coolest 2D Mario levels I have ever played, and easily the best final Bowser level in the series. It starts off with Bowser Jr. threatening to finally finish you off, before subsequently defeating himself. In the wake of defeating himself though, Bowser Jr. turns the whole level into one giant mishmash of wonder effects you've seen all throughout your playthrough. It's so cool to see all these effects combined together, because it shows just how much wonder power Bowser has in this giant head castle, and honestly creates some really fun moments. For example, there's this one part where the singing piranha plants return and start singing the stage's theme, before it quickly transitions into this ghostly Halloween theme where King Boo appears and starts singing the theme himself. The end of this level though is where the fun really starts. You're peacefully and silently floating through the air with no gravity, before slowly a loud crowd cheer starts fading in and you make your way into this giant arena where you ride these inchworm pipes to the main stage. Here and only here, it's revealed to you that instead of fighting Bowser himself, you're instead fighting a Wonder Flower-ified version of him, who's turned himself into a giant head of himself, but you know, just not as giant as the head of himself you're already on? Yeah, this dude's obsessed with his head. This final fight is rhythm-based, as the whole premise of this fight is that Bowser is performing a song for all his troops. You have to time your jumps with the beat of the song in order to get enough height to smack Bowser right in the chin and slowly damage his head. This fight is amazing for a lot of reasons. For one, it's original. This is not an idea we've seen in any Bowser fight ever. The use of rhythm is really on brand for the character, especially after his characterization in the Mario movie. 2, it's fun. The whole vibe here and gameplay of the fight had me smiling the whole way through. I wasn't all that challenged, but it didn't matter. I was having fun with the fight because it was well thought out and original. And finally 3, it's satisfying. Timing your jumps with the beat and smashing Bowser's chin in feels so good. And nothing beats the final ground pound after destroying the bricks surrounding him, bringing an explosive end to a wonderful game. Being one of, if not the most iconic character in all of gaming, with a backlog of games that are highly regarded to be some of the greatest of all time, mainline Mario games have a lot to live up to. Fortunately though, Super Mario Bros. Wonder not only lives up to those incredibly high standards, it goes above them. This game completely blew my expectations out of the water. Every hour of my playthrough I was continuously shocked and surprised at just how much love and care was put into every aspect of it. You have the art style and animation which brings the world to life in the most beautiful way possible. Every movement and action your character makes looks and feels so great. The level design is superb, even discounting the wonder effects. These levels have so many interesting concepts that always kept me engaged and wondering what was next. And then factoring in the wonder effects, you get without a doubt some of the most fun and creative 2D Mario stages ever crafted. And whether it be singing piranha plants, stars falling from the sky, running on walls, floating through space, or rolling around as a giant spiky rock, the game is always pushing the boundaries of what we thought 2D Mario was, and I adore it for that. Nintendo did such a good job at making one of the most classic and simple Mario series feel fresh again after all this time. For years, other games have continuously showed up 2D Mario and proved how far they could push 2D platforming, and in turn created better experiences. But with Wonder, Nintendo was done with the pioneer of the genre being beaten out by series that wouldn't even exist if it weren't for Mario, and put in all their effort to create the most creative, engaging, and fun 2D platformer I have ever played. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is an absolute masterpiece.